Dragon Tamer. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351, The Gargoyle That Cuts Off the Retreat. As heavy trucks broke through the enemy encirclement one after another, the enemy professionals, having already reacted, formed into formations and rushed towards the trucks. Given the trucks' defensive strength, they would inevitably be shattered by the combined attack of professionals with diverse abilities. These trucks are charging recklessly. This must be a counterattack by the Ash Castle guys. No matter their schemes or ranged abilities, concentrate fire and blast them to smithereens, shouted a command from the enemy professionals stationed at the rear. Liu Ming observed this scene coldly from a distance and reached out to touch Arfei, the winged claw dragon snake still wrapped around his hand. Arfei, wrapped like a bracelet, understood and immediately left Liu Ming's wrist. Like an inflatable balloon, it swelled up against the wind. Soon, a massive inky black body, the size of a train, appeared in mid-air. Clouds of mist appeared out of thin air around Arfei, supporting him as he rapidly approached the enemy formation. Balls of dark green, highly corrosive, and highly toxic liquid erupted from the winged claw dragon snake's mouth, hurtling toward the dense crowd like high-pressure artillery shells. The viscous dark green liquid, after splashing onto the ground and impacting the ground, immediately evaporated into a semi-gaseous dark green ocean. This ocean emitted a chilling hissing sound, like buckets of concentrated sulfuric acid being poured down on ordinary people's heads. Of course, the resistance of these evolved professionals was far superior to that of ordinary people, and the corrosiveness of the dark sea of poisonous mist expelled by the winged claw dragon snake, Arfei, was even more powerful than ordinary concentrated sulfuric acid. The professionals who had been rushing towards the heavy truck in groups were thrown to the ground by the sudden attack. Overwhelmed, they couldn't even react, not caring about the devastating weaponry mounted on the truck. The Ash Castle. Arfei, under Liu Ming's command, flew in another direction, spewing poisonous mist. Thousands of enemy troops on three sides were trapped in a sea of dark green poisonous fog. Its highly corrosive gases and droplets caused unbearable suffering for most professionals with weak resistance. Many suffered burns on their faces and bloodstains all over their bodies, looking horrible. Some even dropped their weapons in agony, writhing on the ground in agony. Liu Ming, observing these tragic scenes, remained expressionless, only secretly admiring Arfei's abilities as a weapon of mass destruction. From the moment these men decided to attack him, they should have expected not only disfigurement but also death. However, this kind of poisonous fog couldn't persist on the battlefield for long. There were numerous ways to dispel it, such as through area of effect attacks. The difference was that the winged claw dragon snake's black sea of poisonous fog was too high in energy and covered too wide a surface, making it difficult and time-consuming to dispel. So, after briefly entangling the enemy, Liu Ming immediately ordered his men in over a dozen heavy trucks to attack. Of course, these men were all monstrous troops, unlike normal humans. So naturally, they wouldn't just open the doors and file out. Upon receiving Liu Ming's order, the gargoyles, squeezed in at the outermost layer of the packed carriage, like sardines in a can, extended their claws. With a few clattering sounds, they sliced through the iron sheeting. With a tug, a gap wide enough for them to escape suddenly appeared. Whoosh, whoosh. As the first gargoyle flapped its wings and flew out of the carriage, others followed closely behind it. Like a swarm of bats bursting from a dark cave, the heavy trucks were surrounded by a swarm of fluttering gargoyles. The standard gargoyles were barely noticeable in the gargoyle army. The main force had been replaced by E-rank gargoyle soldiers. Among the gargoyle soldiers, the taller and more burly, and equally ferocious looking lava gargoyles stood out even more. These monstrous troops, in orderly groups of 3 or 5, circled the battlefield low above. They used their heavy trucks as cover, defending against the occasional stray bullets and sporadic attacks. The battlefields engulfed in the poisonous, winged-clawed dragon snake, ink sea fog began to dissipate under the dispelling abilities of spellcasters. Those burned by the poisonous fog regained some of their combat effectiveness thanks to healing abilities. While they were far from fully recovered, at least their wounds had healed, allowing them to continue fighting. The enemy troops, who had just dispelled the inksy fog and were furiously preparing for revenge, were stunned by the sight of swarms of monsters, as hard as stone statues, capable of dragging such heavy bodies into flight, emerging from the heavy trucks behind them. They paused, their gazes fixed on their respective commanders. However, their commanders were also bewildered. Even in this apocalyptic era, the appearance of any monster was commonplace, but this gargoyle-like monster had never appeared before, let alone as an ally of humanity. Of course, it was an ally of the enemy. Attack. Before they could react, Liu Ming's cold voice echoed through the power cores of each gargoyle. Upon receiving the command, the gargoyles quickly formed an attack formation in the air and launched a charge towards the professionals in the convoy below. Rip. A gargoyle's sharp blade ripped an F-rank professional in half, while the opponent's attacks were completely blocked by the round shield on its other arm. However, despite the impressive defensive power of the round shield and the gargoyle's incredible mobility, some gargoyles were still shot down by the frenzied attacks of human professionals. Once a gargoyle was shot down with damaged wings, if it could not fly again, it would almost certainly be shattered. Compared to the gargoyle soldiers who were comparable to the average enemy, inflicting casualties of 800 of their own for every 1000 they inflicted, the more aggressive and threatening lava gargoyles proved far more formidable. Even though they lacked defensive gear like arm shields, their crimson armor, resembling lava blocks, offered far greater defensive power than the round shields of the gargoyle soldiers. Any attack short of C rank or higher wouldn't even penetrate their lava armor. Their razor-sharp arm blades, like the Grim Reaper's scythes, relentlessly slashed through the enemy ranks. Unless a B rank or higher ES spear was deployed, it would be difficult to defeat a C rank pinnacle lava gargoyle with both formidable defense and attack power. B rank and higher ES spear personnel had already been deployed to the front lines, forming the main force attacking the Ash Castle. At this point, the rear camp had few elite combatants. Just as the lava gargoyles were slaughtering a group of evolved classes behind enemy lines, leaving them wailing for their lives, the enemy commanders from 3 directions and 4 factions suddenly realized that the Ash Castle defenders, under Liu Ming's command, had switched from defense to offense, launching a counterattack against their own forces. Their retreat seemed to have been cut off by the swarm of flying monsters. My cold hasn't healed yet, maybe it's even worse. I cough every day, like I have tuberculosis. If I never update again one day, it might be that Fengsha died in this sudden flu. Chapter 352, The Iron Fist Club. Fengsha had been on 4th drips for a few days, and was finally feeling better, though he still coughed. It was early spring, the 2nd year after the catastrophe, and the temperature wasn't cold, it even had the warmth of spring. However, even in this weather, Jianglin, commanding his troops from a modified heavy truck in direct combat with Yanfang, felt a sudden chill, and a fine line of sweat broke out on his forehead. He watched the rearguard troops battle one flying supernatural monster after another, and the Ash Castle's counterattack began. Under attack from both sides, whether it was the sudden but dispelled poisonous fog or the increasing casualties among his troops fighting the flying supernatural monsters, Jianglin had a bad feeling. He was the first to sense that this seemingly surefire surprise attack, a chance to catch the enemy in a trap and reap the benefits, was about to fail. Boom. Like a small dinghy in the middle of a storm, Jianglin's heavily armored truck swayed from side to side under the raging energy shockwaves. Jianglin remained expressionless. This was already the 6th coordinated attack by the stubbornly resisting Ash Castle. Under Yanfang command, a dazzling array of supernatural powers of various attributes bombarded Jianglin's formation. However, the armored trucks, standing like a steel fortress at the forefront of the formation, and the ESP users aboard, fought with all their might. Just as Jianglin was trying to devise a strategy to break the deadlock, another energy shockwave descended. Boom. This time, Jianglin finally changed his mind. According to previous practice, Ash Castle troops only resorted to this type of concentrated energy attack, which depleted the superhuman strength in dire situations. Each attack was followed by a long pause before recharging for the next. This time, however, they unexpectedly launched 2 concentrated energy attacks without interruption. It seemed that Ash Castle's counterattack was no mere pretense. But if they switched from defense to offense, wouldn't they worry about the Iron Fist Club swooping in? Were they absolutely certain of taking Iron Fist Fort? Jiang Lin's mind raced with thoughts, his face growing increasingly grim. A fine layer of sweat formed on his forehead, and the chill grew stronger. If Iron Fist Fort fell, the Ash Fort troops attacking the Iron Fist Club would be forced to retreat to support them. The very thought of that scenario filled Jiang Lin with dread. Of the 4 factions, Jiang Lin wasn't the strongest, but he was undoubtedly the most cautious and resourceful. Contact the leaders of the other 3 factions immediately, Jiang Lin ordered his adjutant. The adjutant was a capable woman, and upon hearing Jiang Lin's words, she quickly pulled a dark purple hexagonal box from an iron box, brimming with magical mysticism. This hexagonal box, adorned with mysterious patterns, was a new type of communication device that had emerged after the magnetic field was disrupted and electronic communications collapsed. It was the sound demon Kei, emanating from a mysterious magical power. It requires a magical user of level 2 or higher, possessing specific manufacturing diagrams, to create. Furthermore, it's expensive, making it an extremely rare item. A faint blue energy shimmered from the adjutant's fingertips. He poked a circular pattern in the center of the box. The area he touched immediately sank, and a dazzling white light emanated from the depression. The white light formed a curtain of light. The adjutant extended his fingertip and poked it several times. Ripples suddenly appeared on the curtain, like the surface of a lake swept by the wind. Then, the white curtain suddenly twisted and contracted. After a burst of sizzling electricity, several voices echoed. "What's wrong, Jiang Lin? Why are you contacting us at this critical moment?" Several voices were puzzled. Although they were allies, they had established a primary tactic. Once the battle began, each of them would lead their troops to attack in 3 directions. There was no previous coordination between the front and rear. Jiang Lin calmed himself and said, "I'm sure everyone is clear about the current situation. If we continue to fight on our own, we'll be defeated. What are your thoughts?" The leader of another faction asked, frowning. "The only solution now is to abandon the fight with the monsters behind us, and gather all our reserves to defeat the Ash Castle troops ahead in one fell swoop. Otherwise, the roles of hunter and prey will reverse," Jiang Lin said in a deep voice. "Isn't this too risky?" Someone hesitated. Jiang Lin took a deep breath. For someone who had always been cautious, having managed to survive the apocalypse while accumulating such a fortune, this decision was absolutely necessary. He steeled his resolve and said solemnly, "You all know I'm cautious and never take risks. But in this situation, if I try to avoid risk and give it my all, I'll only end in defeat. Think of the 3 castles coalition. That's what happened to the 4 of us. They're even stronger than us, and yet they were defeated by the Ash Castle." Hearing this, the 3 of them fell into a moment of silence. "Okay." A moment later, the first voice echoed, approving Jiang Lin's strategy. "I agree." Agreed. Jiang Lin finally breathed a sigh of relief. He'd been most worried about the 3 men disapproving of his tactics, ultimately leading to the Allied forces' failure. Without further delay, everyone, simultaneously order the rearguard troops to abandon their entanglement and gather towards our forces, launching a simultaneous assault. "Okay," the 3 responded simultaneously. After hanging up the Inmogi communication, the orders from the 4 allied commanders were instantly relayed to all the divisions and grassroots units. Whether it was the vanguard engaged in battle with the Ash Castle or the rearguard reinforcement battling flying monsters, they were now madly rushing towards the intersection. Then, under the command of their respective commanders, they all began to converge and move towards Jiang Lin's forces in the rear. From above, the thousands of troops, looking down, looked like 4 black centipedes slowly converging, becoming a larger black torrent. Victory or failure depends on this one move. Kill. Over 20 heavily armored trucks, arranged in rows of 4, formed a 6-row impregnable barrier, forcing their way towards the Ashford forces, braving the Ashford attack. The Ashford forces, which had been gathering to counterattack the Allied forces, were now retreating under the advancing Allied force, which outnumbered them by several orders of magnitude. The combined forces of the Iron Guard captains and captured soldiers totaled only 1,000 men, while the combined Allied forces numbered 3 to 4,000. Given this massive numerical disparity, counterattacking and charging into the enemy formation to be trapped would be tantamount to suicide. Liu Ming could only order his Iron Guards to lead their Iron Guards and captured soldiers in a fight and retreat, awaiting a turning point. However, the Allied offensive was far faster than the Ashford forces' retreat. Soon, the two sides were locked in close combat. The vastly outnumbered Ashford forces were immediately at a disadvantage. However, with the support of Liu Ming and his dragon pets, the core Iron Guards, despite being temporarily at a disadvantage, suffered minimal casualties. Instead, the captured warriors, used by Liu Ming as cannon fodder and a rear guard, suffered heavy casualties. Soon, the Gargoyle Legion descended from the sky to join the fray. While unable to change the tide of battle, they nonetheless inflicted considerable casualties on the Allied forces. Just as the battle reached a stalemate, and the Ash Castle troops were about to be decimated by the vastly superior Allied forces, the sound of a rapidly advancing force rose from Iron Fist Castle, located in the rear of the battlefield. Ma Jun led the Iron Guards, attacking the Iron Fist Society, and behind them were Iron Fist Castle's resistance forces, led by General Blood Vampire. However, at this point, these resistance forces were completely integrated into Ma Jun's forces, becoming his own troops and reinforcement. Chapter 353, Joining the Army. After Ma Jun charged forward with his newly recruited Iron Fist troops, the ratio of forces on both sides went from 1 to 4 to 3 to 5. While Ash Castle still outnumbered the enemy, with the addition of hundreds of ferocious and fearless flying gargoyles, their strength was now nearly even. In terms of top tier combat power above level 2, Ash Castle even had a slight advantage. The Allied forces had only 4 level 2 evolvers, while Ash Castle, with Gong Weeksin, Fangan, Liu Ming, and the Kangal Blood Beast, plus the newly joined Blood Vampire General, outnumbered their opponents by 1 man. Furthermore, Liu Ming's strength was far superior to that of an ordinary level 2 evolver. The Allied counterattack was instantly crushed by Ma Jun's reinforcement and the defections of the Iron Fist. Jiang Len's desperate strategy was instantly thwarted. The 20 or so armored trucks tasked with advancing had become a defensive wall, delaying the Allied retreat. But the wall collapsed in an instant when Jizui Rang's body, several stories tall, emerged from the ground and landed directly beside the heavy truck. Its terrifying force and size instantly overturned one truck after another. Every time the winged claw dragon snakes dropped from the sky and flew over the trucks, another was whipped away like a toy. The rear convoy was completely destroyed within minutes, and the Allied forces took the opportunity to retreat 1,000 meters away. Ma Jun looked at Liu Ming, asking if he should pursue them. Liu Ming took a deep look at the retreating allies, shook his head, and said, "Clean up the battlefield. No more pursuit." With that, he turned and headed towards Iron Fist Fort. If Liu Ming was so inclined, the 4 smaller forts that wanted to take advantage of the situation would be easily destroyed. However, Liu Ming had no such intentions, even though these 4 smaller forts were far weaker than Sandstorm Fort, Hurricane Fort, and Iron Fist Fort. With Ash Fort's limited manpower, occupying 3 of the smaller forts was already the limit, and even a stretch. If they occupied other settlements, they simply wouldn't have enough manpower to maintain them. Given the current situation in the Wuling region, each small fort harbors over 10,000 people. As the ruling power of a small fort, they not only have the power of life and death over the tens of thousands of people under their rule, but also shoulder the responsibility of defending their settlement. After all, the Wuling region is far from safe. Monsters of all kinds remain omnipresent, as exemplified by the zombie horde that participated in the previous battle at Ash Castle. However, these wars have been large-scale battles between human survivors. The most advanced forces within these settlements pose a significant threat to the monsters of the entire Wuling region. Furthermore, each small fort-sized settlement maintains a constant campaign of monster eradication, which contributes to the lack of monsters appearing around the battlefields. If a settlement declines, the surrounding monster swarms will resurge. Liu Ming could annihilate the Allied forces, but after that, he wouldn't have enough manpower to take over the territories of the 4 small forts. Consequently, he wouldn't be able to provide shelter for the 4 settlements. Without their protection, the tens of thousands of survivors in those settlements would quickly perish in the onslaught of resurgent monsters. This was precisely why Liu Ming hadn't pursued them. The priority now was to take over the territory left by the three forts. As for the four who had attacked him without knowing what was good for them, there would be plenty of opportunities to deal with them later. You were the one who led the resistance against me before. In the Iron Fist Guild's meeting hall, Liu Ming looked at the pale, frail-looking young man before him with great interest. A faint smile played across the corners of Vampire General CXIU's lips as he replied, "Indeed, but I don't seem to have caused many casualties among your troops." His tone lacked the hostility and crisis typical of surrender. Instead, it sounded remarkably relaxed. First, his direct subordinates had suffered few casualties, and he had a history with the Iron Fist Fort. He was here to reap what he could, if not, and forget it. Unexpectedly, Liu Ming's smile turned cold, his tone turning cold. "But you did lead your men against me before. Do you think I'll let bygones be bygones? But I also helped you defeat the combined forces of Jiang Lin and the others." CXIU was now uncertain about the attitude of the legendary master of the Ash Fort. According to his plan, his timely surrender and aid to the Ash Castle should offset the incident he'd had standing on the walls of Iron Fist during the Ash Castle attack. The Ash Castle occupied Iron Fist, and although he'd failed to steal the chicken and lost the rice, he still returned to the Vampire Order to become his own temporary leader. The two were unrelated, but judging by the situation, it seemed that the Ash Castle wouldn't be able to grant his wish so easily. Liu Ming remained silent, merely smiling at CXIU, a smile so chilling that it made the hairs of this renowned vampire general stand on end. "So, what do you want?" Finally, amidst the silence and Liu Ming's cold gaze, CXIU spoke first. Liu Ming's smile faded, and he said gravely, "It's simple. Bring your men and join my army." CXIU was stunned, as if he had heard something unbelievable. "You want to take me in? Do you know that Jiangwan and Chen Human have tried countless times to suppress me, but they haven't been able to get me to join their Iron Fist Fort?" Without further ado, Liu Ming unsheathed his absolute blade, pressing the tip to CXIU's chest. "I'm different from them. If you refuse, get out lying down." The absolute blade's tip glowed a deadly crimson, and a sharp aura began to linger around CXIU, a murderous aura permeating the air. CXIU was 80% certain that the man before him was not joking. If he uttered a single word of objection, he would most likely be among his victims. Although he had always looked down on Yangguan and Chen Humin, he knew that Lu Zuan of the Sandstorm Society and Zeduo Heng of Hurricane Fort were both stronger heroes than himself. If they had both met their end, he certainly wouldn't be spared. But CXIU remained undecided. Instead, he asked, "How can you be sure I'm truly joining you? Aren't you afraid I might be loyal to Han, even though I'm in KO's camp, and stab you in the back at a crucial moment? That's not your concern. Just answer yes or no." Liu Ming's tone remained devoid of murderous intent, only filled with silence. "If I bring my men to join you, and we end up being cannon fodder like those prisoners, it's better to fight to the bitter end." CXIU certainly valued his life, but he didn't want to live in vain. He had witnessed firsthand how captured warriors from other defeated factions were killed by Ash Castle. If he could only live like those prisoners, he might be used as cannon fodder in the next war. This truly emboldened him to fight to the death and never surrender. This was why he had been able to hold his own against the enemy for so long, with a settlement far weaker than Iron Fist Castle. "You are different from them. They are prisoners, and being cannon fodder is what they deserve. But as long as you join my army, your men will also become my subordinates, not cannon fodder. Otherwise, they will be dead." Liu Ming was determined not to let this guy go. The moment this guy stood on the wall of Iron Fist Fort, the outcome was a foregone conclusion. Not killing him and letting him go was already a sign of his appreciation for his talent. In addition, this guy knew the situation and did not resist stubbornly. Otherwise, it would be nothing more than killing one more person. Chapter 354 Temporary Vampire Guard. After saying this, Liu Ming fell silent, merely staring blankly at CXIU and his men. CXIU's already pale complexion paled even further at Liu Ming's words, and the knuckles of his right hand clenched even tighter around the hilt of his sword. He already sensed that he was doomed, so he dropped his level-headed tone and, instead, lowered his stance and pleaded, "Can you give us a moment to discuss this?" "Okay." Liu Ming nodded, then left the Iron Fist Club's meeting room. As he reached the door, he instructed Fangen, "Take the steel hood guards and stand guard at the entrance. Don't let this guy escape with his men." After leaving the meeting room, Liu Ming summoned the Iron Guard captain and all the key members of Ash's castle. The last of the Iron Fist Club's leaders were also brought in, semi-controlled by a dozen Iron Guards. Among them were 4 captains of the Steel Cavalry, the last remaining members of the Iron Fist Club's resistance. They were all filled with bitterness. They hadn't expected to surrender twice in just one day. No one had anticipated that even the Blood Vampire General and his allies would be unable to hold off the Ash Castle, ultimately forcing them to launch a counterattack. Besides the 4 captains, led by Laser, several other Iron Fist leaders, less skilled in combat, were also identified and captured by the surrenderers. Marjam pulled a middle-aged man with a severely receding hairline from the crowd and said, "Boss, this guy is the technical director of the Xiling Locomotive Factory. He's the key to Yangguan and Chen Humin's troops having so many heavy motorcycles." Liu Ming looked at the bald, middle-aged man before him, his expression filled with fear. He muttered to himself, "Don't judge a person by their appearance." He asked, "Did you know that Yangguan and Chen Humin are dead?" I know. Do you know why you were invited here?" The bald man grumbled inwardly. "Invited? You clearly captured me." Uncertainly, he asked, "Do you need me to build vehicles?" Liu Ming nodded. "From now on, Xiling Locomotive Factory will remain under your management. Your position will be the same as it was during Yangguan's time in the Iron Fist Society." The bald man was stunned for a moment, then stared at Liu Ming with wide eyes in disbelief, as if he hadn't expected his fear to be turned into such a casual appointment. Amidst the bald man's expression of mixed surprise and delight, Liu Ming walked over, patted him on the shoulder, and sneered, "Don't be too happy. I don't care what your relationship was like before, but now that Iron Fist Castle has changed hands, I'm letting you continue to manage Xiling Locomotive Factory, because I value your skills and abilities. If you perform well, you can move up to the next level. But if you don't perform well, or have second thoughts, I won't let you die easily. Understand?" As Liu Ming spoke, cold sweat began to form on the bald man's forehead. By the time Liu Ming finished speaking, he was sweating profusely. Liu Ming's current aura was so overwhelming that even standing there would have been overwhelming for ordinary evolvers, let alone a common like the bald man. The bald man, knowingly, immediately turned against him, saying, "Sir, I was hiding out with my colleagues at the locomotive factory, trying to save my life. But we didn't know that our good fortune would last." Not long after, Yangguan and Chen Humin led a raid on the factory where we were hiding, killing many of my colleagues. I was forced to work for him. Your killing of those 2 thugs is truly a relief. Liu Ming was impressed by his tact and smiled faintly, saying, "Very good. I don't know why you, a high-ranking member of the Iron Fist Club, are still an ordinary person, but if you can satisfy me, I promise to make you an evolver, and not just an ordinary one." The bald man's face lit up with joy, a look of genuine delight compared to the previous one of surprise and delight. He had been working for the Iron Fist Club, responsible for vehicle manufacturing at the Xiling Locomotive Factory, for nearly 6 months, but while many of his former colleagues had become evolvers, he was still an ordinary person, a fact that had always resented him. He knew full well that the 2 Iron Fist leaders were wary of him, fearing he would lose his obedience once he became powerful. Furthermore, the Xiling Locomotive Factory wasn't located in Iron Fist Fort. If he gained power and orchestrated his subordinates to play along, reducing production, Iron Fist Fort, more than 10 kilometers away, would be unable to control him for a while. However, the situation was stronger than he thought. As Xiling Locomotive Factory's production gradually returned to normal, as long as the factory remained stable, the difference between him and him wouldn't be significant. Ultimately, he could only hold his anger in check. Evolution opportunities were strictly controlled by Iron Fist Fort. Every qualification for a job advancement required Yangguan's personal approval before it could be released. He hadn't expected the new master of Iron Fist Fort to make such a long-awaited promise. It made him feel like he had met a kindred spirit. Just as he was about to offer a heartfelt speech to express his excitement, Liu Ming's gaze shifted to someone else. You four previously led troops to resist me and should have been sent to the prisoner of war camp. However, you later led reinforcement, which partially atones for your sins. Therefore, I now offer you two choices. First, disband your troops and assign them to the various Iron Guard regiments of Ash Castle. You will also be assigned to my commander's ordinary Iron Guard squad leaders. Besides Iron Guard captains like Fangen, Chu Gang, and Yun Fang He, each Iron Guard regiment of Ash Castle also has squad leaders. The number of members in each squad varies, ranging from over 10 to as few as 7 or 8. All 4 of them are above S level, not weak, and not much behind Iron Guard captains, making them more than qualified to be squad leaders. Second, become officers in Ash Castle's new demon hunting squad, leading the demon hunting squad in monster hunting. If you achieve merit, becoming the commander of this new unit is not impossible. Liu Ming didn't mention any specific names, but this new unit was composed entirely of prisoners of war. As expected, all 4 were unwilling to be outdone. As the Iron Fist's equivalent of the Iron Guard's commander, they naturally refrained from serving as squad leaders and instead opted to join the Demon Hunting Corps. With these 4, the Demon Hunting Corps comprised over 600 members, with 12 S rank and above evolved classes, making up a perfect 50-man squad, divided into 12 teams. Finally, several other Iron Fist club leaders, all production-oriented support classes, did not accompany Yang Wan on the expedition. Their resistance was weak, and they were quickly incorporated. However, Liu Ming would later bring these Iron Fist leaders back to Ashford. Allowing them to remain would undoubtedly pose a significant threat. Liu Ming already had plans for the new administrators and commanders of Iron Fist Fort. Yun Fang He, Li Sang Teo, how many men do you have left? Liu Ming asked, looking at 2 capable officers from Ashford. My Iron Guard garrisons, including prisoners of war, number 146, Yun Fang He said, a number that surprised Liu Ming slightly. Li Sang Teo continued, I still have 98 men. So that means there are less than 300 in total? Liu Ming frowned. He then asked, Jin Dao, how many men do you have? He was very pleased with the combat potential of the chubby cook he had accidentally saved. He had truly put a potential second level Inch Force fighter class to good use. Soon after becoming an Inch Force fighter, the chubby cook, Jin Dao, demonstrated his potential and strength, rising to a position second only to Ma Gong Weekson and the 12 Iron Guard captains in the Ash Castle battle hierarchy. His rank was Iron Guard squad leader, but not within the 12 Iron Guards, but directly under Ma Jun. At full strength, the squad should have numbered 40 or 50. Boss, including the prisoners, there are 56 left, Jin Dao replied, stepping out from the crowd. This number was pretty much in line with Liu Ming's expectations. Liu Ming then issued new appointments, Yun Fang He, Li Sang Teo, and Jin Dao. You will not be required to participate in the following battles. Your next mission is to garrison Iron Fist Fort, eliminate all resistance there, completely eradicate the Iron Fist Society's influence, and firmly raise our flag above Iron Fist Fort. This was followed by a final purge of the remaining resistance from Iron Fist Fort before the Ashes Fort troops set out. Liu Ming returned to the conference hall and inquired about CXIU's final decision. I agree to serve Ashes Fort. As long as you treat my men equally, as you promised, and don't treat us as cannon fodder, CXIU said as he returned to the conference hall. Liu Ming glanced at CXIU and the dozen or so core members of the Blood Vampire Society surrounding him and said solemnly, of course I will treat everyone equally. You will still manage your gathering place, but from now on, your Blood Vampire Society name will be revoked. All of you will be temporarily designated the Blood Vampire Guard. CXIU will be the chief officer of the Blood Vampire Guard. Chapter 355 Demon Hunting Area. Soon, Ma Jun presented Liu Ming with an inventory of the various assets taken over from Iron Fist Fort. Iron Fist Fort's survivors numbered over 13,000, slightly more than Ash Fort, and they had ample food reserves, primarily rice and flour. Hundreds of workers were still working at the Xiling motorcycle factory, far from Iron Fist Fort. Furthermore, 2 teams of Iron Fist cavalry and over 100 Iron Fist Fort armed forces were stationed at the Xiling motorcycle factory. Zhu Guanqiang, the bald man and former technical director of the Xiling motorcycle factory, was the head of the factory. He had simply returned to Iron Fist Fort to deliver a batch of newly manufactured modified heavy-duty motorcycles, hence his presence there. These motorcycles, powered by domestically produced engines with a displacement of over 400 cc, featured expanded fuel tanks and reinforced chassis, boasting ample power and range. Furthermore, their modified off-road tires and specialized shock mounts made them suitable for a variety of terrains. Liu Ming now owned all of the 100 newly delivered, cruise-type heavy motorcycles. As the largest industrial company in the Wuling region, the Xiling Motorcycle Factory primarily produced heavy motorcycles, with the most prominent models being the Cruise, Falcon, and Fierce Eagle. The Iron Fist Club's troops were primarily equipped with heavily modified versions of the Cruise-type heavy motorcycles. The Falcon and Fierce Eagle models were upgraded versions of the Cruise, boasting superior performance. Even within the Iron Fist Club, they were typically reserved for squad leaders and above. Liu Ming was impressed by the superior performance and maneuverability of these modified motorcycles, but getting his men to transition from cars to motorcycles would require some time, and now was clearly not the best time for the change. The brand new cruise-type heavy motorcycles were then stored in a warehouse, awaiting removal after the battle. The Iron Fist Fort, viewed from its entirety, resembled a vast factory. The site of Iron Fist Fort was originally a construction site in full swing. Later, after discovering a 3-color altar and a 2-color altar, Yang Guan and Chen Human seized the site from the construction workers and used it as the Iron Fist's headquarters. The site was originally intended to house a school, including classroom buildings, student dormitories, a faculty building, a library, and a laboratory. By the time the apocalypse arrived, less than half of the site was complete. After consultation, Yang Guan and Chen Humin, who occupied the site, decided to continue construction, converting the existing classroom buildings into large bungalows, each no more than 3 stories high. The building materials from the original construction site supported this massive undertaking. Ultimately, Iron Fist Fort was built to its current size, expanded several times, and now easily accommodates over 10,000 people. A power plant, located in the core area, provided the entire fort's electricity supply. 3 3-story bungalows, resembling barracks, stood adjacent to the power plant. These served as housing for Iron Fist Fort's armed forces. Between the barracks lay a large, guarded courtyard, housing a dozen or so simple, 2 or 3-story houses. These houses housed the Iron Fist Club's top brass, and formed the organization's true core. These buildings formed the core area. Beyond them lay the outer perimeter, where ordinary survivors lived. A variety of simple wooden and brick buildings were scattered haphazardly, giving the area a chaotic and dilapidated appearance. Sewage drains and garbage were everywhere, and every survivor looked sallow and thin, creating a scene worse than a refugee camp. Against this backdrop, Yun Fanghua, Li Sangtao, and the others remained, unfazed by their takeover of Iron Fist Fort. The ordinary survivors seemed indifferent to the change in leadership. This underscored the Iron Fist Club's failed rule. After the transfer of power in Iron Fist Fort was complete, some war supplies were loaded onto vehicles. While Iron Fist Fort primarily relied on heavy motorcycles for transportation, it also possessed numerous other vehicles, such as modified trucks and off-road vehicles. The war supplies prepared for the upcoming battle were loaded onto vehicles taken from Iron Fist Castle. The Purple Oblivion cannon, which had been mounted on the city wall, but hadn't fired at Ash Castle, was surprisingly dismantled by Liu Ming's orders, and loaded onto a heavy truck for transport as a devastating weapon. The standard Purple Oblivion cannon, white 6-star top tier air, a powerful magical heavy cannon that draws its power from mana crystals. A direct hit inflicts penetrating, continuous burning and corrosive damage to any creature below level 3, and also penetrates all objects in its path. This purple-colored heavy cannon, resembling an ornament carved from amethyst, was more than a weapon. Although it wasn't rated as a white 6-star, Liu Ming felt it was a treasure. It's no exaggeration to say that, if CXIU had gone all out and activated this heavy cannon during the previous siege, he wouldn't have survived, and even his men would have suffered heavy losses. With his current defenses, it would have been difficult to withstand a direct hit from the Purple Oblivion cannon. Even if he could, he would have sustained severe damage. The purple obliteration cannon is a type of magical energy cannon, belonging to the magic dynamic cannon family, and is an extremely powerful one. In Liu Ming's opinion, this heavy artillery piece is the most valuable piece of equipment acquired by the entire Iron Fist fort. After happily loading the purple obliteration cannon and its accompanying energy crystals, also known as rough stones, onto the truck, Liu Ming led his large force out of Iron Fist fort, including Lei and his subordinates, who were originally members of the Iron Fist Club, and CXIU's Blood Vampire Guards. The number of troops was not much less. Yun Fanghua, Li Sangtao, and Jin Sideo were ordered to remain with their Iron Guards at Iron Fist Fort. Liu Ming's next destination was not either the Sandstorm Club or Hurricane Fort, but rather the Xiling Locomotive Factory, where remnants of the Iron Fist Club still existed. Destroying the 2 Iron Fist Club cavalry units at the Xiling Locomotive Factory and occupying the factory would mark the end of the war against the Iron Fist Club. The Xiling Locomotive Factory was neither far nor close to Iron Fist Fort, at least no further than Ash Castle. The area between Ash Castle and Iron Fist Castle had been regularly cleared by both factions, leaving few remaining monsters. However, the route to the Xiling Locomotive Works was filled with dangerous areas teeming with monsters. These dangerous areas, distinct from the safe zones, were often referred to by survivors as the Wilderness Zone or the Demon Hunting Zone. The areas surrounding smaller forts like Ash Castle were considered safe zones, largely cleared of danger. Meanwhile, the Xiling Locomotive Works remained nestled within the perilous Demon Hunting Zone. Marjan looked ahead with some concern, anticipating a difficult journey, as if an invisible line separated the safe zone from the Demon Hunting Zone. As soon as the Ash Castle convoy crossed this boundary, various monsters, now rare in the safe zone, began to appear one after another. In the sparsely populated Demon Hunting Zone, weeds had grown to half a man's height, even sprouting through the concrete floor, giving the area a desolate appearance. Soon, a massive pitch black hound with bony spurs on its back, and 3 ferocious heads flashed past the convoy. Its maw, studded with fangs, continuously dripped foul-smelling, highly corrosive saliva. It left a pool of yellow saliva on the dusty, broken road ahead, hissing as the dripping saliva corroded the ground. Or 3-headed hellhound? Liu Ming muttered softly, frowning as he watched the massive monster flash by. As one of the most common types of hellhounds, the quickest way to identify their strength is through their appearance. While a regular hellhound is merely an E-rank monster, a 2-headed one soars to C-rank. Or 3-headed hellhound is at least an S-rank monster, possibly even SSS rank. With a 4th head, it's undoubtedly a 2nd rank or higher hellhound. Furthermore, hellhounds are renowned for their swift speed, multi-attribute damage, and immense vitality, making them incredibly formidable. However, the 3-headed hellhound clearly didn't want to provoke the massive human convoy before it, fleeing without a backward glance. Liu Ming naturally didn't attack the powerful hellish creature that flashed past his armored SUV. However, he couldn't help but marvel at the rapid evolution of these alien monsters. The 3-headed hellhound's strength was undoubtedly comparable to that of his own Iron Guard captains. Having just left the safe zone and arrived in the demon hunting area, they encountered 3 hellhounds. This showed that monsters of this caliber were not uncommon in the demon hunting area. The monster didn't cause much panic in the convoy, even among the 2,000 people. Most people didn't notice the terrifying creature passing by. After putting all vehicles on high alert, the convoy resumed its journey. Chapter 356 Giant Shadow. Overgrown with weeds, the crumbling walls and shattered ruins of buildings are everywhere. Under the erosion of alien energy, many buildings in the Wuling region are decaying as if through age. The entire demon hunting zone appears desolate and silent, but beneath this desolate surface lies countless monsters, lurking dangers everywhere. Low-level monsters like cannibals, lesser demons, and dread demons have become increasingly rare in the demon hunting zone, and even those encountered are sporadic. Large numbers of these low-level monsters simply have no place to survive in the demon hunting zone. In just 6 months, these terrifying monsters, once the most helpless of humans, have been relegated to the bottom of the monster food chain. Low-level monsters like horned demons and thorn demons have replaced the lesser demons and dread demons, becoming the bottom of the monster army. Throughout the monster world, the focus has shifted from sheer numbers to individual strength. The monsters that can roam the demon hunting zone are hardly any formidable to ordinary evolvers. Any human survivors wishing to set foot in the demon hunting zone required at least adequate preparation, a team composed entirely of evolved classes, a well-reinforced convoy, and heavy firepower. Otherwise, few would even venture into the demon hunting zone. It had become a haven for all manner of terrifying monsters, a forbidden zone for human activity. The massive convoy from Ash Castle continued its advance along the now deserted and dilapidated road. Despite the dangers lurking on every side, few monsters dared to attack the heavily armed convoy. The presence and size of the Jizui-Rang and Kangal blood beasts guarding the convoy were enough to repel most monsters. Arfeni and Sumi, possessing the ability to control their size, huddled together on the leather seats to rest. However, the journey was destined to be fraught with uncertainty. The journey from Iron Fist Castle to the Xiling locomotive factory involved crossing several kilometers of the demon hunting zone. Normally, at the speed of the modified convoy, it would have taken only a few minutes. Given the dilapidated state of the highway and its poor road conditions, a massive convoy nearly 100 meters long, carrying thousands of people, would take at least 20 minutes to cross the area. Liu Ming remained in the command vehicle at the front of the convoy. He didn't rest in his seat, waiting to pass through the demon hunting zone and reach the next target battlefield. Instead, he sat on the roof of the vehicle, his telepathic awareness constantly extending to the surroundings, alert to the dangers lurking within the demon hunting zone. The invisible barrier between the demon hunting zone and the safe zone was not only forged by the lives of the evolved from the various human settlements, but also by other factors. After all, with humanity's current strength, it's simply impossible to confront the monsters in the demon hunting zone head-on. This invisible barrier exists because some of the terrifyingly powerful monster lords within the demon hunting zone disdain to attack human settlements. In the eyes of these high-level monsters, humans are nothing more than food, capable of some resistance. Of course, any resistance is merely a desperate struggle. However, given a choice, these monster lords naturally preferred to hunt defenseless prey, rather than go to the trouble of attacking gatherings of human survivors. If the high-level monsters in the demon hunting zone were to emerge en masse, Liu Ming had no confidence he could lead the Ash Castle to withstand them. Even with his strength, he felt apprehensive even as he walked through the demon hunting zone. He relied solely on his own strength. As for his equipment and weapons, they were far behind the current state. Even the weapons and gear of the Iron Guard captains were superior. 6 months ago, his collection of divinely gifted items was undoubtedly top-notch, but after 6 months, even white items were no longer rare. Suddenly, his extended sensory tentacles, 700 or 800 meters away, seemed to detect a powerful and violent energy wave, and his heart tightened. "Stop." Liu Ming, at the front of the convoy, suddenly turned and gestured to the rear, signaling a halt. As the command vehicle stopped, the other vehicles in the convoy immediately stopped in the distance. "Stand still." Ignoring everyone's confusion, Liu Ming ordered all the guards to stand guard before launching his holy fire demon puppet into the air. Though merely a first tier, C-grade special item, the holy fire demon puppet boasted defense far superior to its current capabilities. It was also agile, stealthy, and incredibly fast. Most importantly, it shared a visual field with Liu Ming, making it an invaluable tool for reconnaissance. 2 fist-sized holy fire demon puppets flew rapidly at low altitude, directly in front of where Liu Ming had detected the anomaly. Liu Ming instantly switched to the holy fire demon puppet's field of view, feeling as if he were flying through the air, the scenery rapidly receding. Finally, after 10 breaths, the holy fire demon puppet arrived not far from its target, concealing itself in the shade of a large tree as it conducted reconnaissance. 100 meters from now, a massive figure appeared within the holy fire demon puppet's field of vision. The enormous figure was leaning against a roadside water tower, eyes closed, snoring loudly, clearly asleep. Even sitting, its head was level with the nearly 20-meter tall tower, its head resting against the roof, causing the steel to creak. Atop this enormous head, a razor-sharp horn pierced the sky. This ferocious horn alone was estimated to be 2 or 3 stories high and 5 or 6 meters long. Upon catching sight of the figure, Liu Ming's expression hardened, then turned bitter. This creature happened to be resting near the water tower, not far from the road. The thought of the convoy passing without waking it was a pipe dream. If it did awaken, his troops would undoubtedly suffer catastrophic consequences. Horned Demon Warlord. This was the name of the monster he remembered. Unlike the lower ranking demons, the Horned Demon Warlord was a true royalty among the Horned Demons, the common monarch of all Horned Demon tribes. Their size is several times, sometimes even 10 times, that of ordinary Horned Demons of the same rank, making them large abyssal creatures. Even the most common juvenile Horned Demon Warlords are rank 2 or higher. However, judging by the size of this Horned Demon before him, it's definitely a rank 3 or higher shaped species. This shaped species corresponds to the third stage of Yuan Qi cultivation, the explosive shift of elemental energy. At this level, their bodies and life structures begin to evolve towards a perfect form tailored to their species, their structures gradually reaching perfection and their power correspondingly increasing. Compared to the power comparison between rank 2 and rank 1 monsters, the power gap at this stage is even greater, with the gap between rank 3 and rank 2 appearing to be almost insurmountable. Liu Ming never expected that his first foray into the demon hunting area would yield such a huge surprise. Even the strongest man in Ash Castle could only contend with monsters around rank 2B at best. Beyond that level, he was powerless, not to mention the creature blocking their path. A level 3 monster, a Horned Demon Overlord, a formidable opponent of its rank. A single Horned Demon Overlord could rival at least 3 to 5 abyssal Horned Demons of the same power level. There's a level 3 monster blocking our path ahead. Is there any way to circumvent it? Desperate, Liu Ming summoned the Ash Castle's senior management for a meeting. While the Horned Demon Overlord was still resting and showing no signs of waking, they needed to devise a solution quickly. If it awakened and attacked the Ash Castle troops, it would be a disaster. Liu Ming confidently declared that at this stage, even the East Safety Zone, known as Wuling's most powerful military and political hub, would be powerless to withstand the ravages of this Horned Demon Overlord. Standing over 30 meters tall, it was undoubtedly taller than the East Safety Zone's protective walls. With its terrifying power, the East Safety Zone's protective walls wouldn't be able to withstand even a few of its charges. Level 3 monster? Everyone's expressions were filled with disbelief, their usually calm demeanors etched with horror. They had all led teams through the demon hunting zone many times, but had never encountered a monster higher than level 3. Monsters of this level were far from common throughout the entire demon hunting zone, indeed exceedingly rare. Otherwise, any group from any gathering point would be slaughtered. We can take a detour, but it's probably nearly an hour's journey, said Mao Fengji, who lived nearby before the disaster and knew the area well. Liu Ming pondered for a moment and quickly decided, then we have to take a detour. A little effort was far more sensible than walking a tightrope through the Horned Demon Overlord. Immediately, the Iron Guard captains passed the order down, and the rear convoy became the lead convoy, with the entire Ash Castle convoy retracing its route. Liu Ming, controlling the Holy Fire Demon puppet, observed the Horned Demon Overlord from a distance. Hidden behind several tall buildings, it remained undetected even from nearly 1,000 meters away. Fortunately, he was vigilant, otherwise, if the convoy had charged head-on, it would have been fatal. Fortunately, as the last vehicle exited the demon hunting area, the Horned Demon Overlord was still sound asleep. To be so comfortable in such a perilous environment was something only a terrifying creature, currently considered invincible, could achieve. Liu Ming estimated that even at the peak of his past life, he wouldn't have been a match for this Horned Demon Overlord. This type of abyssal demon is no longer a demonic unit. Each Horned Demon Overlord is a noble among the abyssal demons, commanding vast armies of demons, and possessing insane strength. P.S. Fengsha's cold hasn't healed yet, and my wife is also sick. She's been shuttling back and forth between the hospital, company, and home for a week. Finally, she's freed from the hospital these past 2 days, so I've resumed updating. Chapter 357 Chameleon Lizard. After safely leading his troops out of the demon hunting zone, Liu Ming remained dignified throughout the entire journey. Monsters like the Horned Demon Overlord, with a power level of at least 3.50, are absolutely devastating, even catastrophic. to the meager resistance of the current top tier humans, whose power level has barely surpassed 2.10, reaching the second level. For the various safe zones in human cities that have struggled to rise and gradually reached their peak in later generations, resisting monster attacks is no longer a difficult task. However, some terrifying monsters still pose a significant threat to human cities. Destruction and catastrophic level monsters are the two highest levels of threat. Destruction level monsters specifically refer to monsters of the 6th level, comparable to the most powerful humans, reaching the power level of the 6th level subsaint, surpassing the Nirvana semi-saint. Catastrophic level monsters, on the other hand, refer to legendary 7th level super creatures capable of easily destroying human cities without resistance from a comparable force. Only the most exceptional and powerful of the legendary saints and 6th level subsaints can withstand catastrophic level monsters. For humans at their current stage of development, those monsters are simply out of reach. Even ordinary 3rd tier Emeths are difficult for humans to contend with, let alone the horned demon overlord, a demonic noble clan known for its formidable capabilities among 3rd tier creatures. Of course, sacrificing a monster like the 3rd tier horned demon overlord would yield staggering benefits. That presupposes someone can slay it. However, Liu Ming doubted that anyone could achieve this at this stage. He knew that no one could currently withstand the horned demon overlord. Any resistance would be futile. Even if the East Safe Zone were to confront it, the potential for destruction was staggering. Even more so, even sacrificing the entire Ash Castle would likely only inflict minor casualties on the Horned Demon Overlord, not to mention his legions of Horned Demon followers. Yet, an indescribable sense of urgency still welled up within Liu Ming. Despite Zhuo Heng's death at his hands, Liu Ming had to admit that this creature possessed some power. However, in his previous life, Liu Ming had never heard of this name. Whether among those with the title of Zhu or the title of Gancheng, there was no such person. Even Hurricane Fort wouldn't exist after 10 years. There was only one possibility: this power was completely annihilated during the long decade of the apocalypse, leaving no trace. During humanity's decade of struggle in the apocalypse, countless heroes and settlements rose, but an almost equal number fell. Hurricane Fort was undoubtedly one of them. Human internal strife generally didn't end in destruction. Despite constant wars, humans usually overthrew the ruling regime of a settlement and then took it back to expand their power. If Hurricane Fort wasn't completely destroyed by human warfare, then there was only one possibility: it was completely annihilated by the monster onslaught. If he didn't want Ash Castle to be destroyed one day by force, his current strength was far from enough. His enemies included not only those with ill intentions, but also those lurking in the demon hunting zone. Terrifying monsters like the Horned Demon Overlord, capable of easily destroying a small fort. These were his true enemies. It seems I can't wait until after the battle to let Sumi and the others evolve. Improving their strength is urgent. I must first evolve them all to the second stage, so that I can further enhance my self-defense capabilities. Liu Ming finally made up his mind and immediately strengthened his 3 dragon pets. As a dragon keeper, improving the strength of his dragon pets was the best way to improve his own strength. Of the 3 dragon pets, Sumi and Arfeni were both first stage SSS level, and Jizeri-ran was first stage SS level, with abundant accumulation, not far from the second stage. All they lacked were some opportunities for evolution and the accumulation of strength to break through their limits. Arfeni, in particular, had already evolved to the extreme of SSS level, and Sumi's strength had also increased after that bloody battle, bringing her closer to the peak of SSS level, making her evolution imminent. Summoning Marjan and Gong Weeks into the command vehicle again, Liu Ming said, "Take your convoy along a safe route to capture the Xiling locomotive factory. Then, camp there and wait for me. I'll get Sumi and the others to complete their evolutions. It'll take at least half a day, at most a day, before I return to the Xiling locomotive factory to reunite with you." Marjan and Gong Weeksin were both incredulous. The evolution from stage 1 to stage 2 was a monumental leap, a leap like crossing a chasm, a long arduous process that couldn't be achieved overnight. Otherwise, why were there so many promising individuals throughout Ash Castle, yet only Gong Weeksin and Fangan were stage 2 evolvers? Hearing Liu Ming describe the evolution of their 3 dragon pets as a simple matter of course was naturally incredulous. The Kangal blood beast will follow and protect the convoy. I'll take Sumi and the other 3 with me. Without waiting for a reaction, he opened the car door and bolted out. Sumi and Arfei shrank using their powers, clinging to his body. Ji Zedong, who had heard the commotion outside, kicked back and darted forward, taking Liu Ming and leaping off into the distance. Leaving behind him were the crowd of Ash Castle, unaware of the situation, and bewildered by Ji Zedong's departure. Liu Ming patted Ji Zedong's cold, scaled head beneath him, sighing apologetically, "Before you leave, each of you is above me in power level. It's my negligence that has kept you stuck at the first level until now." Roar. Ji Zedong growled. Though he didn't understand Liu Ming's meaning, he sensed Liu Ming's indebtedness and offered comfort. Liu Ming chuckled. "I haven't fed you any evolutionary blood for over 6 months. Let's kill them today." Arrgh. Ji Zedong strode on his massive legs, sprinting away. As if sensing Liu Ming and his dragon pet's intentions, a khaki monster soon appeared on the wall of a building ahead. Its massive, powerful limbs and sickle-like claws clung tightly to the 6-story building's wall. Its cloudy dark yellow eyes fixed intently on the uninvited guests, including Ji Zedong and Liu Ming, who were charging towards them. As Ji Zedong drew closer, its skin color slowly shifted, from khaki to a grayish yellow closer to the wall's color. Then, unexpectedly, it shifted again, becoming a grayish yellow, almost transparent, in the sunlight. If Liu Ming hadn't already been alerted by its presence, it would have been difficult to detect. Name: Chameleon. Evolved creature. Level: First stage SS abilities: Optical color change, invisibility. Talent: Vertical crawling. Specialties. Description: This giant lizard evolved from a common chameleon, a species native to Earth. This evolved creature, possessing optical color change and invisibility, and capable of swiftly traversing various terrain angles, is a killer lurking in the shadows, a wanderer in the shadows. Liu Ming's lips twitched in a hint of surprise. What luck. S rank and above monsters should be rare in the safe zone these days. He whispered to Ji Zedong. Lucky luck. He happens to be SS rank, just like you. Kill him first, and then let me see if our attributes are compatible. With that, Liu Ming abruptly stood up from Ji Zedong's back, leaping into the air with a single stride. Using telekinesis, he leaped dozens of meters through the air. In a flash, he was within 10 meters of the giant lizard. His sharp sword, shrouded in a rich blood aura, slashed with a crimson streak, severing its head before the lizard could react, still changing color and hiding. Blood splattered everywhere, flowing down the wall. Its claws, so sharp they were practically embedded in the wall, kept the monitor lizard securely attached. Liu Ming no longer relied on his ability to soar through the air, but instead stepped on the monitor lizard's head, which was the size of a desktop. The hidden ability evolution recipe of the dragon bloodline transition immediately gave Liu Ming insight into the creature's attributes. Earth attributed evolutionary creature, with primary high strength fiber muscles concentrated at the base of the limbs, tail, spine, and neck. Earth attributed organs include the heart, color sac, and back flesh. This matches the evolution recipe for the dragon pet Neo and dragon salamander. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358 Encounter on the Road. Rumble. The 4-lane concrete road trembled like an earthquake, its debris, newspapers, cans, and other debris bobbing up and down in the violent tremors. At the end of the road, a dark shadow rapidly grew larger, approaching from afar. From a distance, a dark yellow behemoth, nearly 3 stories tall and 20 meters long, could be seen streaking down the long street. Every time its limbs, thick as marble pillars, trod the ground, a cloud of dust rose up, and the ground vibrated violently wherever it landed, threatening to crack under the invisible force. Atop the beast's back, a figure stood, firm as if treading on flat ground, unmoving despite the violent tremors. These arrivals were, of course, Liu Ming and Ji Zedong. After all the hunting and digesting of the evolutionary blood, Jizerang's aura had become far more potent than it had been just hours before, and he was only a hair's breadth away from reaching the SSS level. Standing on Jizerang's back, Liu Ming frowned, muttering to himself, the strongest creatures we've encountered along the way are only SS level creatures. Pushing Jizerang to SSS level with just these levels of evolution blood is probably already the limit. High level monsters in the safe zone were pitifully rare. Encountering the SS level chameleon upon arrival was pure coincidence. Throughout his journey, he'd encountered only 3 or 5 SS level monsters, and only 3 of them were suitable for Jizerang's attributes. To break through to SSS level, he'd need at least 2 SS level evolution bloods. He'd been away for over half a year, and his knowledge of the monster distribution throughout Wuling was limited. He should have brought someone with him to show him the way. Hunting aimlessly along like this, the chances of encountering high-level monsters were truly pitifully small. Furthermore, the truly high-level monsters were all confined to the demon hunting area, making the monsters in the safe zone even rarer. Liu Ming felt rather helpless about this situation. They could only fight their way along the road to the Xiling locomotive factory, hoping to encounter a monster of a slightly higher power level. If that didn't work, they'd have to venture into the demon hunting area to hunt. Liu Ming made up his mind, looking at Sumi and Afei, who slept soundly on his shoulders and in his arms. The evolution blood they'd hunted along the way might easily allow Jizerang to reach the SSS level alone, but relying solely on the evolution blood provided by these SS level monsters to elevate Sumi and Afei to level 2 would be nearly impossible. 2 or 3 kilometers away, at the other end of the long street, a group of people, in a state of panic, rushed out of a building, faces filled with fear. Quick, quick, start the engine. Shang Meo. There's a super monster inside. The first person to rush out of the building shouted anxiously to the driver of a nearby car, his face filled with horror. Several other drivers were horrified at the news, quickly starting their cars and opening their doors to welcome their companions aboard. The people in the cars hurriedly urged the drivers to get going. A driver hesitated. But Don and the others haven't escaped yet. The man who had first escaped the building slapped the driver on the head and roared, "What do you mean by but? Don and the others are covering our rear, and we've been torn to pieces by the monsters. Drive the fucking car, or I'll kill you, and you'll drive on your own." The man's face was savage, a look of satisfied concealment filled with fear. His raw sent spit flying into the driver's face. The driver, looking at his frantic companions, helplessly stepped on the accelerator and began to drive off. Seeing the others leave first, several other cars followed suit. Barely half a minute after they drove off, another group of people rushed out of the building, looking even more disheveled. They were collectively carrying a figure covered in blood, resembling a blood gourd. They could still see their companions escaping in a cloud of dust, and were stunned in disbelief. "Fuck you. We were covering our rear, and these bastards abandoned us and ran off." The crowd erupted in fury, their faces turning blue. "What should we do?" Someone trembled as they asked. They knew firsthand the terrifying power of the monster behind them. Without a vehicle, these nearly exhausted men had no chance of escaping its pursuit. A momentary silence fell over the crowd. "Let's go, ahem. Put me down. Let's go." The blood-stained figure being carried out of the building spoke with difficulty, spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Some listened to his words, their eyes flickering, while others looked determined. A burly man carrying the bloody figure glanced at the others with flickering eyes and snorted coldly. "If you want to leave, go ahead. I'll take Don with me." Another man carrying the bloody figure followed. "Count me in." The crowd was at a standstill, and those who wanted to leave, hearing this, found it even more difficult to do so. Boom. A loud noise echoed from the building. Countless pieces of wood flew out of the door. Inside, a swift, dark green figure smashed through several rows of solid wooden cabinets before escaping the building in a matter of seconds. Bang! A dark green figure streaked through the air like a flash of lightning, landing on the parking lot in front of the building. Landing on all fours, its long slender tongue quivered in the air. Its dark eyes, filled with bloodlust, glared playfully at the crowd before it. Like a seasoned hunter watching its prey, its path cut short. Everyone's faces paled, and they twisted their heads with difficulty to catch a glimpse of the terrifying figure behind them. "Run!" someone shouted in horror. As soon as the words left their mouths, they broke into a run, leaving only Xiaosheng's two legs behind. With someone leading the charge, the hesitant crowd suddenly fled for their lives. In the blink of an eye, only 5 or 6 remained, guarding the blood-stained figure. Several of them stared at the dark green figure with despair, their faces determined. But to their surprise, the dark green figure flashed past them. In the next breath, he sped dozens of meters. A man, desperately fleeing, was instantly pierced through the chest by a claw, covered in dark green scales, tearing out a heart, entwined with fascia and blood. Blood gushed out. The remaining men were filled with fear. If they had just lifted their leader and taken flight, the claw would have likely pierced their chests. A kilometer away, Liu Ming seemed to sense something. A flicker of joy crossed his gloomy face. Effortless. Liu Ming thought to himself. He hurriedly urged Zherong to speed in the direction he pointed. Whoosh. Several cars, seeing Zherong's frantic approach, were instantly terrified and frantically spun their steering wheels, attempting to turn around. Cars behind and ahead scrambled to reverse course, leaving the 4-lane road in chaos. The fleeing crowd watched the car turn around again, their fears etched in their disbelief. Could it be that these fleeing guys had a change of heart and returned to pick us up? Just as they tried to stop the car, they saw their companions actually speeding towards them from behind. Then, an even more ferocious and terrifying beast slowly emerged from their sight. Everyone's faces paled in despair. With wolves in front and tigers behind, there was no escape. Chapter 359, Insect World Creatures. Zherong's speed far outstripped the vehicles turning back. In a comical moment, Zherong, outpacing them, actually caught up with the reversing vehicles, and within moments, was driving alongside them. Zherong's hooves repeatedly stomped on the road between the vehicles, creating a resounding thud like thunder. Drivers frantically swerved, trying to avoid Zherong's limbs, terrified the occupants. Just as they feared their vehicles were doomed, about to be crushed to pieces, a faint voice rang from the terrifying beast's back. Zherong, don't step on the car. What? Is this a pet? Everyone in the car was stunned. The voice clearly didn't come from a monster, but from one of their own kind. To be able to control such a terrifying beast was undoubtedly an extremely powerful being. Such monsters controlled by humans are called pets. As field searchers for a gathering place, they naturally had a far greater understanding of the evolver community than the average person. Throughout the entirety of Wuling City West, it seemed few could command a terrifying beast of this magnitude. Knowing their lives were temporarily safe, the people in the car suppressed their fear of death and couldn't help but feel a deep curiosity about Liu Ming, the one who commanded Zherong. However, Zherong had already passed the car and was heading for the building that had so terrified them. As they sped along, the powerful creature he'd sensed with his telekinesis drew ever closer, and Liu Ming's eyes flickered with anticipation. He hoped this creature matched Zherong's attributes. In the distance, a dark green figure streaked through the air like a flash of lightning, passing 100 meters away in a flash. It once again ripped out the heart of an evolutionist with its claws, stuffing the heart into its mouth, and chewing until its mouth was filled with bloody, shredded flesh. It seemed to have a preference for devouring hearts, always slicing open the chest, after slaughtering a fugitive, ripping out the heart, and devouring it whole. The heart-munching monster also sensed the uninvited visitor. It lifted its head from the corpse of the new victim, and swept its eyes forward, bloodthirsty and frantic. Liu Ming, approaching from that direction, also sensed the monster's presence. The moment he sensed the monster's location, a flicker of joy crossed his eyes. SSS level. It really didn't disappoint. Technically, this was Liu Ming's first SSS level monster he had encountered in the safe zone. The dark green monster wasn't impressive in size, only about 2 meters tall and several meters long, significantly smaller than the 3-story tall Zherong. However, its speed was astonishing, even faster than Zherong. After seeing Zherong, the first car to turn around, still ahead of him, was immediately targeted by the approaching dark green monster. The monster's massive powerful hind legs slammed hard, cracking the concrete and leaving a trail of after images. It swept 20 or 30 meters before crashing into the car's side door. With a loud bang, the side door was dented by the immense force. Then the entire car flipped over and rolled 3 times before coming to a stop. The windows of the car that was knocked away were made of modified bulletproof tempered glass, which surprisingly did not shatter even after the monster's impact and the vehicle's rollover. But the people in the windows were not so lucky. Under the immense force of the impact, the people in the windows were like human flesh stuffed into a meat grinder. Blood splattered on the windows, and everyone in the car was reduced to a pile of tattered flesh and blood. The car door was dented by nearly a meter in the impact, and the entire car became tattered and shattered during the roll, not to mention the flesh and blood of others. Even if the evolved ones had strong vitality, it would be difficult to escape in such a situation if they were in the car. Liu Ming saw from a distance that the monster knocked over an off-road vehicle carrying 4 people. Finally, the target was identified. Liu Ming shook a finger and said, "Kill it, and the opportunity to evolve to SSS level will fall upon it." Ji Rang roared loudly upon hearing this, accelerating towards the dark green monster. The dark green monster, watching Ji Rang charging from afar, a flicker of disdain flashed in its eyes. It leaped out again, charging towards Ji Rang as well. Boom. The result was astonishing. Ji Rang, 3 stories tall and weighing tens of tons, was knocked back several steps by the barely 2-meter tall dark green figure, while the dark green monster remained motionless. At the moment of impact, Liu Ming activated his insight ability, and the dark green monster's information instantly appeared in his vision. Name: Earth-Lizard, Insect Realm, Energy Level, First Stage SSS Abilities, Tenacity, Explosive Power. Talents: Tenacity, Rebirth. Specialties. Description: Zerg creatures from the ancient Zerg realm, a low-level combat force of the Zerg clan, excel at close combat, relying on fangs and claws to strike, and their powerful weapons, combined with explosive power and mobility, possess an incredibly tenacious vitality. Zerg. Liu Ming's heart trembled. Zerg have actually begun to appear in Wuling. Compared to the brutal, and bloodthirsty monsters like the abyssal demons and hell devils, the Zerg of the Zerg realm are even more terrifying. The Zerg of the Zerg realm are completely different from the traditional insects of other worlds. They have evolved into a highly intelligent and socially advanced life form. They have inherited the insect's robust vitality and terrifying reproductive capacity. If only their vitality and reproductive capacity were strong, it would be fine. After all, insects are merely weak creatures. But the Zerg of the Zerg realm are no longer weak individuals. They are not only resilient, but also extremely powerful. Even the weakest adult Zerg is no less powerful than an evolved form of the abyssal coward or hell lesser fiend. The earth black lizard before him, covered in dark green armor, was an exceptionally powerful first-tier Zerg species. A melee Zerg species with virtually no ranged attack capabilities. This didn't make it easy to defeat. Its sheer melee prowess transformed it into a formidable weapon. Its every limb was a deadly weapon. Claws, fangs, a dagger-like hook on its tail, a row of dorsal spines on its back, and razor-sharp spikes at the joints of its limbs. Every part of its body could be transformed into a weapon. Furthermore, the earth black lizard's body was incredibly powerful. Beneath its dark green armor lay a thick stratum corneum. Breaking through both the armor and the cuticle was necessary to injure it. This double layer of defense gave it immense defensive power. Liu Ming watched the earth black lizard repel Ji Rang, his eyes filled with joy instead of anger. This Zerg species had the earth element, perfectly matching Ji Rang's. The stronger it was, the more potent the evolution blood it could extract would be. Die. Liu Ming leaped from Ji Rang's back. He clenched his fingers into fists in midair, a dark aura lingering around them. With one blow, he lashed out at the earth lizard worm, carrying an unmatched aura. The earth lizard worm didn't dodge or evade, instead accelerating towards Liu Ming. It had killed countless humans, but it had never encountered a human capable of withstanding its physical strength alone. Boom. A thunderous roar erupted, and dust billowed. 200 or 300 meters away, Tang Lao Dao and his group hadn't left yet. Seeing the monster ignore them and hunt its fleeing companions, they abandoned their plans to flee. It was clear the monster wouldn't let its prey escape. Running would only lead to a quicker death. Just as they were racking their brains for a way to escape, the sudden arrival of Liu Ming and Ji Rang overjoyed them. But the monster's strength shattered their newly risen hopes. Even a 3-story tall beast pet had been repelled by the monster. They clearly didn't believe Liu Ming, a mere human, could stand a chance against this terrifying beast. Chapter 360, Ji Zhenrong's new ability, Part 1. Zheng. Brother Zheng, do you think we can stop that thing? A tall woman, wielding two sharp blades, among the several still guarding Dom, asked her companion in a trembling voice. The sight of the terrifying monster inflicting 3 critical blows on Dom, tearing apart his companions, and devouring their hearts, had left a deep shadow of fear in her. Her fiery figure, clad in a fiery red special combat uniform, was utterly unkempt and disheveled from fleeing, yet it didn't diminish her allure. Instead, it exuded a pitiful allure. However, in this life or death situation, no one noticed this allure. Brother Zheng, the sturdy man who had previously refused to abandon Dom and leave alone, was also vacillating. He stared intently at Liu Ming, who was engaged in a battle with the dark green monster in the distance, and swallowed hard. He spoke with a strained voice. It should be possible, right? The last syllable of his voice betrayed a deep sense of uncertainty about what he was saying. Something in his heart seemed to tell him that this was practically impossible. This monster wasn't just a super monster. It wasn't just any super monster. Super monsters were a general term for monsters above S level, including SS level and SSS level. Their boss, Tang, was a pinnacle A level awakened superpower, barely a step away from S level, yet he was severely wounded by this monster with virtually no chance of resistance, demonstrating its terrifying power. This was definitely not something an ordinary S-level monster could do. This monster might be SS level or even SSS level. The more Zheng Ming thought about it, the more terrified he became, and the more uncertain he was about his chances of escaping. Brother Zheng, while that monster can't focus on us, why don't we run for our lives? Seeing the monster being entangled by the powerful stranger, and his comrades who had originally fled already escaping and disappearing, one of Tang's remaining companions anxiously suggested. Run. Zheng Ming frowned, pondering. The monster that nearly killed him, and his men was indeed entangled by this man. His chances of escaping now were probably 90% to 90%. However, the monster was incredibly terrifying, and it was unclear if he could handle it. If both he and the monster were ultimately wounded, and he was only a short distance away from slaying it, wouldn't his escape be a disregard for the one who saved his life? But the boss was seriously injured, and if he didn't recover quickly, it could leave hidden dangers. Finally, he gritted his teeth, seemingly resolute, and solemnly addressed his companions. You take the boss and leave quickly. I'll stay and see if I can help that expert, repaying him for indirectly saving our lives. Brother Zheng, I'll stay with you. I'll stay too. I won't leave either. The two of them are enough to take Boss Tang back. Xiao Shuang, Mingjing, Fei Zhe. Brother Zheng was shocked, seemingly surprised that any of his companions would agree with his decision and stay to help. The remaining 2 companions looked at him with trepidation. Brother Zheng, we. Before they could continue, Zheng Ming ordered, Denki, Huangping, you 2 take the boss back for treatment. Fei Zhe, your strength is second only to mine. I trust you. You go too, and protect the boss. If those 2 get into danger, it'll be hard to keep him safe. Zheng ordered firmly. Don't get into trouble with those guys who've escaped. We'll talk about everything after we get back. Denki and the other 2 knew now was no time for excuses. Denki took the boss from Zheng Ming and Xiao Shuang, carrying him on his back. He bowed to Zheng Ming, wished him well, and then, flanked by Huangping and Fei Zhe, he sped off into the distance. They were all evolvers, and even carrying a person weighing over 100 pounds, they walked with remarkable agility. They disappeared in a moment. The remaining 3 breathed a sigh of relief as they watched their companions and the boss depart. Zheng Ming was already content that his companions stayed with him for a while, so he couldn't expect too much. He turned his gaze back to the battlefield between the monster and Liu Ming. Before the billowing dust had completely cleared, a figure shot out like a cannonball, piercing the smoke and dust like lightning, before landing heavily on the ground. It was none other than the terrifying earthing lizard that had nearly annihilated Tang and his companions. Through their clairvoyance, they knew the monster was called the earthing lizard, but they didn't know its true power. The earthing lizard had lost all its previous arrogance. One of its claws had been broken off, dangling from its abdomen. A fiery flame burned from the broken leg, dripping dark green blood. Before it could even touch the ground, it was consumed by the raging fire of the wound, like a maggot clinging to its tarsal bone. Ashes of infernal fire burned relentlessly in its wounds, never extinguished. Similarly, they were prevented from spreading by a dark green alien energy. The smoke gradually dissipated, revealing a figure left behind. Liu Ming stood still, motionless, his entire body enveloped in telekinesis. Even the swelling dust didn't taint him, a godlike figure. After exchanging blows with the earth-ink lizard before him, Liu Ming had a rough idea of its strength. Its power was indeed formidable, rivaling even that of his most powerful dragon pet, the winged claw dragon snake. However, it was still far inferior to his own strength, comparable to that of a second-tier pure strength warrior. The earth-ink lizard, already possessing considerable intelligence, finally realized the disparity between its own strength and that of the human before it after suffering severe injuries in a direct confrontation. Turning to glance at Liu Ming with hatred, it suddenly kicked its legs, attempting to escape. Liu Ming chuckled at this. He had come all this way just for it, so there was no way he was letting this cooked duck get away. With a similarly powerful stomping of his foot, the ground suddenly shook, as if struck by a massive hammer, shattering concrete. In an instant, Liu Ming had traversed dozens of meters to the side of the earth-ink lizard, unleashing a fierce punch laced with ashen fire. In the nick of time, the lizard, before it could even escape, had only time to turn and retreat, dodging the blow. Though its fighting instincts allowed it to avoid a vital point, it was still grazed by the fist. Puff. Half of its body was unable to dodge, and the thick cuticle of its armor on its back was shattered by the fierce force of the punch and the ashen fire. In an instant, the 3 layers of defense of the earth energy shell, insect armor, and cuticle were all broken by the fierce punch and the erosion of the ash fire. In an instant, the blood and flesh of the insect splattered everywhere, and were evaporated by the fire. As soon as they came out of the body, the intense pain made the lizard insect, whose pain nerves were extremely dull, emit an extremely harsh and miserable insect cry. Chapter 361, Zhenrong's new ability, Part 2. The severely wounded lizard suddenly burst into astonishing speed, dashing out at an even greater speed. In the blink of an eye, it glided dozens of meters like a ghost, attempting to escape the battle. Quite fast, Liu Ming's eyes flashed. Although his energy level was the same as the earth-ink lizard, both SSS level, his true combat power was enough to crush a second-level evolve like Ruzan. He was astonished by the earth-ink lizard's tenacious vitality. Even among the lower-level troops in the insect world, lizards were renowned for their resilience. Come again. Liu Ming roared, his blood energy converging on his right hand. His fingertips gradually turned crimson, and his right fist stirred a sea of blood, suffusing a vast expanse of the air with a crimson hue. Die. This punch, condensing Liu Ming's immense strength and the burst of blood energy, delivered a lethal, crimson-like, defense-breaking power. The only thing missing was the ash fire, as Liu Ming feared that the ash fire would evaporate too much of the lizard's blood, reducing the effectiveness of the refined evolved blood. Boom. The fist shadow instantly spanned over dozens of meters, while Liu Ming seemed to be still standing. The earth-ink lizard had no time to react before it was struck. The beetle, once capable of withstanding a volley of rifle bullets, was now as vulnerable as a sheet of paper. With one blow, the over 2-meter tall earth-ink lizard vanished before everyone's eyes, leaving behind only a several meter deep crater and a splatter of dark green insect blood on the surrounding ground. Zheng Ming and the other 2 stood stunned nearby. Retracting his right fist, Liu Ming, ignoring the 3 distant figures, gazed thoughtfully at the earth-ink lizard's corpse in the crater. This Zerg was actually quite formidable, especially in its vitality. Its multitasking abilities were incredibly strong. Zhenrong would likely lose against it. Among his own dragon pets, perhaps only the winged claw dragon snake could certainly defeat it. Su Mi's strength was comparable to its own. It was a level 2 SSS ultimate Zerg, possessing exceptional combat instincts. As a pure earth and insect type Zerg, the earth-ink lizard's control over earth energy rivaled Zhenrong's, if not surpassing it. However, this control was fully utilized in close combat. For example, by growing a layer of highly condensed rock armor on its body, channeling earth energy into its attacks with claws, fangs, dorsal spines, and scorpion tails. Unfortunately, these attacks struggled to even penetrate Liu Ming's skin and muscles. Liu Ming's punches and kicks, however, were capable of inflicting heavy damage on the Zerg. After a brief moment of deliberation, Liu Ming leaped directly into the pit and began to refine the earth-ink lizard's evolutionary blood. Although this monster was a Zerg, it was pure earth type, roughly matching Zerg's attributes. A ball of colorful liquid finally emerged from Liu Ming's hands. The liquid resembled amber, rich in pure earth type energy. Zerg's large head appeared outside the pit, eagerly calling out to Liu Ming. Liu Ming chuckled softly as he tossed the evolution blood to Zerg, whose lantern-sized eyes were filled with anxiety as he looked at him. Zerg's large tongue swept the evolution blood into his mouth, catching it in one gulp. As if sensing the evolution blood's rich, special aura, Zerg and Arfeni, still resting on its back, awoke and gazed at their companion with a touch of envy. Even for their more evolved selves, this evolution blood was entice. It was simply not their proper properties that prevented them from enjoying it. Zerg opened his bloody maw, his scaly neck moving up and down, swallowing the evolution blood whole. An invisible aura suddenly erupted within Zerg's body. A rainbow of colors gradually shone upon him. Zerg's once bloated form, in the light, seemed stretched by an invisible force, becoming even more slender. His proportions, now more balanced than before, became more robust and voluminous. The dark yellow scales from forehead to tail darkened in color and became thicker in texture. Like a black line, this slender, dark yellow, almost black line added a sinister and mysterious quality to Zerg's already dark yellow frame. The line stretched across Zerg's back, flanked by rows of fine, serrated patterns, adding to his ferocity. Roar. Before the colorful light had completely dissipated, Zerg exhaled softly. A dragon breath, imbued with the rich texture of earth energy, erupted from Zerg's mouth. The three-colored dragon breath remained unchanged, yet its power was vastly different from before. With a resounding bang, Zerg's dragon breath impacted the wall of a tall building jutting from the road 100 meters away. Rumble. Like an earthquake, the wall collapsed under the impact of the dragon breath. The breath, brimming with earth, fire, and water energies, continued to wreak havoc within the building, even though a wall had already collapsed. Squinting at Zerg, who was excitedly releasing his excess energy, Liu Ming sighed with delight. Evolved. The power of this single burst of dragon breath alone was worthy of the lethality of an SSS rank monster. Although he was certain Zerg had successfully evolved, Liu Ming still activated his insight ability. With this ability, as the target of his insight, he could see every ounce of Zerg's information at a glance. Name, Zuanian Dragon Salamander. Dragon species, leader, level, first order SSS, peak, potential, third order S abilities, tricolor, dragon breath, rock armor helmet, earth lance rock spike, sandstorm soul, heavy water heart, potential intensification talents, leadership, earth gravity field, water elemental domain, protective coloration. Critical burst specialties, leadership, earth escape, water escape, limb regeneration. A glint of surprise flashed in Liu Ming's eyes. Unexpectedly, this evolution from SS to SSS would grant Zerg a new ability and talent. Potential intensification is a relatively common Zerg ability, but this commonness doesn't necessarily mean it's ordinary. Potential intensification can be considered one of the Zerg's most powerful abilities. Potential refers to life potential. Its general effect is to transform life potential into combat power. Once life potential is intensified, all Zerg combat indices will skyrocket, naturally increasing combat power. Although this move consumes vitality, given the Zerg's formidable vitality, some consumption is not excessive. While Zerg's vitality is inferior to that of a Zerg, the water element focus can replenish it to a certain extent, allowing him to barely catch up to the average Zerg warrior's vitality. This makes Zerg not only a competent tank, but also significantly increases his attack power. As for his other ability, critical burst, after being severely damaged by the 2ML lizard, his speed suddenly increases instead of decreasing. This talent definitely increases the possibility of a comeback in battle, except in situations like himself where the 2ML lizard is overwhelmingly powerful even after this burst. It is a rare and practical talent. Furthermore, Zhenrong's ability to evolve to the pinnacle of SSS rank, the ultimate SSS rank, using a single portion of evolution blood extracted from the entire 2M lizard's flesh and blood, was something he hadn't expected. It seemed that Zhenrong had accumulated sufficient strength, he simply lacked the opportunity to unleash it. Chapter 362 On the Brink of Evolution. After a long pause, the shimmering light on Zhenrong's body gradually faded. The now transformed Zhenrong shook his tail vigorously, shaking his body, as if to shake off the light. Then, he thrust his right hoof forward, stepping out of the area enveloped by the radiance. Zhenrong looked as if he had undergone weight loss surgery. His bloated body had become slimmer and more slender, with distinct angles and defined muscles. Compared to his previous bulk, his imposing presence only intensified. Liu Ming extended his right hand and pinched Zhenrong's scales, which had become darker and darker. A sound like the clashing of swords echoed, and a smile crossed his face. After briefly testing Zhenrong's physical strength, which had become significantly stronger than before, he finally withdrew his gaze and looked at the people not far away, who were staring at him in stunned silence. Seeing Liu Ming's unkind gaze, Zheng Ming, fearing he might provoke hostility, quickly stepped forward to explain. "Master, we were being chased by the monster you just killed. We were hoping to lend you a hand, but you completely eliminated it. I can't repay you for saving my life." He then looked at Liu Ming with gratitude, his expression revealing both joy at having survived, awe for him, and a hint of unease. Liu Ming stared at him blankly for several seconds, his coldness softening only when he saw that his gratitude wasn't fake. His aura and oppressive force were so intense that even without releasing his ki and mental energy, those few seconds felt like years, leaving the three of them sweating profusely. "You can leave." Liu Ming jumped back onto Zhenrong's back and waved to the three who remained frozen in place. The three of them looked at each other after hearing what they said, and finally Zheng Ming stepped forward and said, "Master, you not only saved the three of us, but also our other brothers and our boss Tang. We are weak, and I'm afraid we can't be of much help to you, but our gathering place is nearby. If you can come to Tangji's gathering place, we will definitely give you a warm welcome." After saying that, the three of them bowed and prepared to leave. Liu Ming, hearing his story, stopped Zhenrong and turned to ask with interest, "You said your gathering place is nearby?" "That's right, Master." "Then you should be familiar with the distribution of monsters nearby, right?" "A little bit." "Then how did you get harassed by this SSS level earthing lizard?" Hearing Liu Ming's question, Zheng Ming gave a wry smile and sighed. "Master, this is a long story. According to our measurements and records of the monster activity area around the gathering place, this lizard isn't a monster that lives in the area. However, we urgently need some special supplies in that building, so we gathered people to search for it, but we almost got wiped out." Hearing this, Liu Ming said in an unquestionable tone, "I just need the distribution of monsters nearby. You can follow me for the time being." Zheng Ming's eyes widened, seemingly completely unprepared for such a turn of events. He could only nod stiffly. "Master, since those two are not strong enough, can we let them go back first?" Zheng Ming asked cautiously. He spoke with some reluctance. After all, he had just escaped death, and now he had to lead this mysterious master to various monsters. However, Liu Ming's next words made him gladly accept this mandatory task. "If you can successfully lead me to the location of the high-level monsters, I'll fetch the supplies you need from that building," Liu Ming promised calmly, knowing the principle of giving back after a blow. After sending Xiaoshang and Mingjing away, Zheng Ming began his legendary job as a guide. Under Zheng Mingxing's guidance, Liu Ming arrived at the location of another SSS level monster in less than 30 minutes. This was a hellish creature that had occupied an entire underground parking lot. It had used the entire lot as its lair, and the ground was filled with a sticky corrosive liquid. This liquid, highly toxic to humans, was filled with a smell that the hellish monster loved and found pleasurable. The entire parking lot, covering over 1,000 square meters, was littered with white bones, floating in the toxic mucus. The blood vessels and fascia on the bones corroded away. Zheng Ming once again witnessed a scene that left him stunned and incredulous. The Hell Corruption Spider, which had rendered the Tangji settlement and the other 3 or 5 other settlements, both large and small, helpless and feared, was instantly blasted to pieces by this mysterious master with 3 close-range punches. The Hell Corruption Spider's attributes matched those of the winged claw dragon snake, Arfei. The refined evolutionary blood from it further enhanced the corrosive and toxic effects of Arfei's poisonous mist. Having ingested and digested the evolutionary blood of the SSS level Hell Corruption Spider, the winged claw dragon snake began to emit a dense purple mist, this intensely corrosive mist sizzling in the air. Closer to stage 2, Liu Ming nodded in satisfaction. He had a thorough understanding of the attributes of each of his 3 dragon pets. Zhelirang possessed incredible defense and immense strength, and his abilities were geared towards group control, making him an ideal tank and enemy control agent in combat. With the addition of 2 new Zerg abilities, his individual combat effectiveness had also undergone a qualitative leap. Sumi, on the other hand, possesses exceptionally powerful individual attacks, exceptional speed, and agility, but lacks defense, making it difficult for her to charge recklessly into battle. However, decapitation is easily possible, and Sumi's fire ability grants her ranged damage reduction capabilities. Finally, there's Arfei, the winged claw dragon snake. Arfei boasts powerful and balanced attack and defense. Besides its exceptional melee prowess, its ranged attacks, particularly its highly toxic and corrosive poison mist, are also formidable. The Hell Corruption Spider's enhanced toxicity perfectly suits Liu Ming's positioning and expectations. After Arfei completely digested the evolved blood, Liu Ming led Zheng Ming to the next battlefield. Naturally, Liu Ming continued to ride on Zhelirang's back, but Zheng Ming didn't have the same privilege. Why would Zhelirang allow a stranger, barely at level C, to ride him? However, Liu Ming was dissatisfied with Zheng Ming's slow pace in catching up on his own 2 feet, so he ultimately rode on Zhelirang's back, commanding him to scoop Zheng Ming up with his tail and gallop away. Liu Ming, for his part, looked unconcerned. As long as Zheng Ming could guide him normally, it was fine. It was just that Zheng Ming, tossed and turned along the way, suffered. At 1.89 meters tall, Zheng Ming felt like a delicate rag doll being manipulated, flattened, or rounded at will. He couldn't even muster the energy to resist. In fact, compared to Zhelirang's size and strength, he was probably no match for a rag doll. Chapter 363 Harvest Motor. For the better part of the next day, Liu Ming and Zheng Ming hunted high-powered monsters within a 10-kilometer radius. With someone leading the way, they managed to gather no fewer than 10 SS level and higher evolution bloods in a short period of time. Even Zheng Ming, a strong and sturdy warrior who had already evolved to C level, couldn't handle the dizziness of being constantly swung up and down by Zhelirang's tail, and he vomited all the way. He talked about how Zhelirang was running at full speed, a scene so beautiful it was unimaginable. By then, the purple mist surrounding Arfei, the winged claw dragon snake, had almost enveloped it. Even its pupils were filled with purple mist. It seemed that it was only the final step away from evolving to the 2nd level. The purple flames on Sumi's tail grew more intense, the heat within them more formidable, and her aura grew increasingly subtle. Liu Ming knew this subtlety didn't indicate a slight increase in Sumi's strength. On the contrary, it signified that Sumi, possessing the power of shadows, had mastered a new level of control, and evolution was imminent. Finally, Zhelirang's body shrank again, his muscles condensing even further, each one as sharp and defined as a sculpture carved by a master sculptor. His earth-attributed aura and control over the pressure chamber also reached peak critical mass. Liu Ming knew that his 3 dragon pets had already evolved to the ultimate SSS level, even halfway to the 2nd level. Their overall strength was significantly greater than before. Liu Ming knew that if these 3 pets were to take the next step forward and complete their evolution, relying solely on the 1st level evolution blood would likely not be enough. If they encountered the opportunity to complete their evolution, perhaps they would be able to evolve immediately. If he couldn't find one right away, it would be another long arduous journey. To force a 2nd stage evolution with evolution blood, he would also need evolution blood of the same level. Level 2 monsters were practically extinct in the safe zone. Even Zheng Ming, a local tyrant, had never heard of them. He planned to escort Zheng Ming back to the gathering place, where he could rest and recover before setting out into the demon hunting zone to search for level 2 monsters and plunder their evolution blood. By this time, Zhirong, Sumi, and the other 3 had made significant strides in strength, giving Liu Ming greater confidence in his journey into the demon hunting zone. As long as he didn't encounter a terrifying monster like the Horned Demon Overlord, which guaranteed his own death. Even if he couldn't roam freely in the demon hunting zone, it wouldn't be difficult for him to achieve some hunting success while still keeping his life. Liu Ming first led Zheng Ming to the building, where their forces had been nearly annihilated. "Master, we are just trying to get some supplies from this building," Zheng Ming explained, pointing to the building that had become a haunting nightmare, and described the supplies they needed. "First, find a car and wait for me at the building entrance to transport the supplies. I'll go see if the things you mentioned are still available." With that, he entered the building alone. Zhirong was also waiting for him at the entrance, while Sumi and Arfei rarely left his side. With a swish of 2 blades, Liu Ming sliced 2 giant insects, the size of children, into pieces hidden in a dimly lit corner of the building's lobby. The blades pierced through the cockroach-like mouthparts of the 2 insectoids, slicing through their mandibles and opening their abdomens, sending sticky green fluid splattering across the floor. He didn't even glance at the 2 insect carcasses, but headed straight for the 2nd floor, following Zheng Ming's instructions. The reason he'd taken the trouble to bring Zheng Ming back for another search wasn't just because of his prior agreement, but also because Liu Ming felt the supplies Zheng Ming and his team were looking to collect would also be useful to Ashford. There were several fuel-powered generators located on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the building. Electricity was undoubtedly an indispensable energy source for humanity in peacetime, a groundbreaking development that marked the beginning of the electric age. In this post-apocalyptic world, the demand for electricity in various settlements hasn't diminished much. Weapons require electricity to manufacture, equipment to charge, and even the operation of equipment. While generators aren't difficult to acquire for larger settlements, for smaller and medium-sized settlements, every working generator is invaluable. While Liu Ming, New Ashford already had a small thermal power plant, the entire city's power system wasn't so lavish as to disregard a few fuel-powered generators. Naturally, he'd take the lion's share of the generators collected this time. Giving Zheng Ming 1 or 2 as a sweetener and reward would be a generous enough reward. Besides, it wasn't him. They couldn't even secure the fuel-powered generators installed in these buildings, and even their annihilation was uncertain. Given the ferocity of the Earth Black Lizard and its picky appetite, which only ate hearts, their complete annihilation was highly likely. Given its size and appetite, the combined hearts of the entire search team could easily provide a full meal for it. Upon entering the building, Zheng Ming and the others treated it as a dangerous den, but Liu Ming treated it as a leisurely stroll. While the monsters within were few in number, each one was formidable. Most were resilient, ferocious, and fearless Zerg from the insect world. Even these Zerg, rarely able to withstand a single blow from Liu Ming's ultimate blade, could survive. Liu Ming's swordsmanship was specifically focused on killing. His strikes were lethal, and no matter the monster that pounced on him, his body was torn apart, his spine severed, or he was hacked into pieces, his brain pierced and crushed. Even with the Zerg's tenacious vitality, these injuries were fatal, and so, they fought their way unimpeded to the 2nd floor. Just then, the humming roar of a car generator wafted through the building. After reaching the 2nd floor and dispatching a few more suicidal monsters, Liu Ming quickly discovered the generators quietly sitting in the engine room Zheng Ming had mentioned. Each generator weighed several tons and had been hoisted up to the 2nd floor by crane. Before this incredibly heavy machine, Liu Ming slid his Jufeng sword at his waist, half crouched, grasped a corner with each hand, and with a sudden push, he single-handedly lifted the multi-ton machine. Finally, feeling it obstructed his view, Liu Ming lifted it above his head and continued his way to the 1st floor. While climbing the escalator, Liu Ming's foot shattered a tile on the dusty step. After crushing tiles along the way, he finally managed to carry a generator out of the building. As Zheng Ming stared in astonishment, Liu Ming, carrying the multi-ton generator, walked slowly toward the heavy truck parked at the building entrance. Zheng Ming quickly got out and approached Liu Ming. After he opened the truck's cargo box, Liu Ming exerted force with both hands, and with a loud bang, he tossed the generator onto the truck and pushed it all the way to the bottom, making room for the next few. Chapter 364, Old Friend, Part 1. By the time the last fuel-powered generator was loaded onto the trailer truck's cargo bed, it was already dusk. These generators, fueled by diesel, ranged in power from hundreds to thousands of kilowatt hours. The largest unit boasted 1,260 kilowatts at 400 volts. While this might seem a bit confusing, a simple calculation shows that a household's refrigerator, air conditioner, induction cooker, and television consume approximately 5 to 10 kilowatts of electricity. With enough diesel, the largest generator could power hundreds of households. Assuming a 15-story building with 8 households per floor, this could easily power the entire high-rise residential complex. To say such a generator was invaluable in this post-apocalyptic world, with everything still in ruins, would be an understatement. No wonder Zheng Ming and his team risked their lives to search for these generators. Generators power everything from machine tools for forging iron weapons to various electrical devices. The technology required to craft crude weapons wasn't difficult. Even experienced craftsmen in rural towns could create their own muskets and firearms. The difficulty lay in the lack of the industrial systems necessary for weapon production. Without electricity, or even fuel for a furnace, forging weapons according to standard procedures was a struggle, akin to climbing to the sky. After Liu Ming placed the last generator in the hanging box, Zheng Ming shyly approached Liu Ming, his smile as bright as a chrysanthemum. He bent forward and flatteredly asked, "Master, could you share one or two of these devices?" As someone who had worked in society for many years and had experienced the vicissitudes of life while surviving after the apocalypse, Zheng Ming naturally didn't take Liu Ming's promise to help him obtain these motors as an unbreakable promise. In the apocalypse, generators were already the most valuable equipment. Without the generators to provide power, the other equipment was nothing more than a pile of scrap metal. Their entire settlement only had one diesel generator with a power output of a few dozen kilowatt hours. Meanwhile, the worst units in this batch were rated at over 600 kilowatt hours. If they could get one or two, their settlement's industrial manufacturing capabilities would be a complete overhaul. Seeing Zheng Ming's fawning expression, Liu Ming couldn't help but laugh. He said calmly, "I did promise you before, but you know the value of this batch of equipment. You can't keep it with your limited resources." During his time with Zheng Ming, Liu Ming also gained a basic understanding of the so-called Tangji settlement, where he came from. This settlement was a common survivor settlement, neither large nor small, with fewer than 1,000 survivors. The two strongest leaders were only A-level evolvers, far inferior to the vampire society settlement of the vampire general he had just recruited. Zheng Ming's face darkened upon hearing this. He knew the other party was telling the truth, believing that he would likely not be able to salvage a single generator from them. He fell silent for a moment, unsure what to say. Who knew the outcome would be so unexpected? Liu Ming continued, "It's impossible to give you all of them, but I can give you 3 of the smallest." Huh. Zheng Ming was stunned for a moment, then his face lit up with ecstasy, almost incredulous. "Thank you so much, Master. 3 is more than enough. Eat as much as you can. 3 is the maximum our gathering place can handle. Master, I can't thank you enough for your kindness." Seeing the other man so overwhelmed with joy over the 3 generators, Liu Ming waved his hand impatiently and said, "Stop talking nonsense. Drive ahead and lead the way." Zheng Ming smiled awkwardly and was about to invite Liu Ming in. But Liu Ming waved his hand. "No need. You drive ahead and lead the way. I'll follow." With that, he walked towards Jizerang. Zheng Ming was stunned by his words, but when he realized what was going on, he looked at Liu Ming's back with envy. He thought to himself, this is what a true master is, roaming the monster-infested apocalypse with his pets and mounts. I wonder if I'll ever be as powerful as him. Boom boom. The truck started up and barreled along the dilapidated city highway. Liu Ming rode Jizerang, with the miniature Sumi and Arfei hanging close behind. Xcoo, one hanging from his wrist, the other slumped over his shoulder like a sloth. Jizerang galloped away, while Xcoo, catching the breeze, squinted his eyes, a look of profound satisfaction. Liu Ming couldn't help but feel a pang of joy. It seemed Fei, the newcomer, hadn't replaced the old man. Jizarong, like Shamunk and the white dragon horse in Tang Sanzang's story, remained Liu Ming's undisputed mount. Jizarong and Fei were accustomed to riding on him, practically Uxio's animal-shaped vehicle. The heavy truck, loaded with 8 generators, traveled at a steady 60 speed. Within 20 minutes, Liu Ming and Zheng Ming arrived near their gathering place, a farmhouse on the city's suburban ring road. Bequan farmhouse is located in a valley surrounded on 3 sides by mountains, just off the loop. Within the valley lies a small lake formed by the confluence of a stream. Pavilions are built beside the lake, each equipped with a barbecue grill, allowing visitors to grill their own food. This is considered Bequan farmhouse's signature attraction, and Liu Ming remembered visiting here before. However, the Bequan farmhouse Liu Ming saw now was completely different from its former self. The parking lot, once planted with trees and flowers, had been completely cleared and surrounded by several fences made of logs and caltrops. A faint bright red hue could be seen on the fences, and bits of foul-smelling meat were hung on them. This made the simple fences appear even more humble than they appeared. Inside the fences, rows of cabinets and boxes were arranged one after another, blocking the view of outsiders like tin boxes. In the middle of this row of metal cabinets that stretches for dozens of meters and almost completely blocks the entrance to the valley, are 2 sentry posts, and in the middle of the sentry posts is a chevauxty frieze made of rough, thick wood wrapped with wire, and nailed with iron nails. The sentry posts are simply made of bricks and cement. Several figures are looming behind the sentry posts, and pairs of vigilant eyes are sweeping from behind the sentry posts to the heavy trucks coming in front. Baozi, Jiacheng, why are you still hiding? Quickly move the chevauxty frieze, and let me in. Zheng Ming's rough voice came from the cab of the heavy truck in the distance. The few people who were still hiding behind the chevauxty frieze with weapons were suddenly delighted. 2 figures stretched their heads out and saw the familiar face rolling down the window and waving at them. Hurry up and give a hand. That's our boss Zheng Ming back. Don't just stand there. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365, Old Friend, Part 2. Upon hearing the call, the men behind the sentry post rushed out one after another, working together to move the heavy barrier weighing hundreds of kilograms. Zheng Ming slowed his car and slowly approached the valley in trance. At that moment, one of the men at the sentry post shuddered, pointed in the distance, and said in a trembling voice, "You, look at what's behind that truck." At that, the men looked over and saw the ferocious looking giant, Jizarong, which, even after its slimming down evolution, was still nearly 3 stories tall and over 20 meters long. It was actually running behind the truck toward the valley in trance. Attack. Monster attack. Quick, bring the barrier over to block it. Don't let it rush in. A middle-aged man in charge of the sentry post shouted anxiously, hastily organizing the panicked men to move the barrier. Seeing several acquaintances frantically trying to block the road with barricades, after seeing the expert following them, Zheng Ming flew into a rage. He stuck his head out the car window and roared, "Fuck you, Li Sheng. How dare you stop me? That guy behind us is the big shot who saved our boss Tang. If you dare put up barricades to stop us, boss Tang will skin you alive." This roar instantly intimidated the men manning the barricades. Even though they still looked at Jizarong with horror, they stopped their work and retreated behind the 2 sentry posts on either side, viewing Jizarong with a mixture of vigilance and hostility. Liu Ming, however, didn't even glance at them, following the heavy truck into the valley in trance. Once inside the valley in trance, blocked by boxes, a simple campsite was faintly visible. The camp was built around the signature lake of the Bequan farmhouse. The pavilions remained intact, instead encased in bricks and cement, providing shelter from the element. Besides the dozens of pavilions converted into dwellings, numerous wooden cabins dotted the valley floor. These cabins weren't scattered randomly here and there, but rather, 4 cabins were built close together. Every 8 cabins formed a path between them. The entire settlement occupied a relatively small area, but the roar of Zheng Ming's truck had already attracted the attention of most people. Except for those who were busy working and unable to leave, most of the people began to gather around the truck. Each time the truck returned, it brought a new supply of supplies gathered from outside. Normally, they would have rushed over to count the new supplies. However, this time, the truck was followed by a massive monster, intimidating them and preventing them from approaching. This time, they were likely to be disappointed. There were supplies, but they were generators, not the food they had hoped for. As Zheng Ming opened the door and stepped out, a man and a woman pushed through the crowd and rushed over. "Brother Zheng, you're finally back. Are you alright?" The two people, naturally Ah Shuang and Jingzhu, who had returned earlier, were now looking at Zheng Ming with concern. "With the experts here, what can I possibly do?" Zheng Ming was in a good mood, chuckling. "The experts are here too," Ah Shuang exclaimed, glancing towards Ji Zhenrong, who was standing behind the heavy truck. He spotted Liu Ming's figure on Ji Zhenrong's back. "Brother Zheng, Boss Tang has recovered. He told us to wait for you and notify you as soon as you return." It was then that Jingzhu, remembering the important matter, spoke to Zheng Ming. "We should go see the boss. You stay here and watch the truck while I take the experts to see him. Keep an eye on the things in the truck. Don't let those bastards mess around." After giving the order, she glanced at the truck with some concern before heading towards Liu Ming. Liu Ming, upon hearing Zheng Ming's announcement that the leader of the gathering place had requested a meeting, naturally agreed. Zheng Ming then led Liu Ming towards the center of the valley. The two men arrived at the only house in the valley Liu Ming could consider respectable. It was likely the residence once built by the owner of the farmhouse, or 3-story Western-style building. As he entered, the sight of something in the hall made Liu Ming pause. A grey altar loomed before him. Several people stood silently before it, seemingly waiting for something. In between were 2 young men seated in chairs. They exchanged glances with Liu Ming, each with a look of surprise. "It's you?" The 3 responded in unison. "Boss Tang, Boss Ji, let me introduce you. This is the master who indirectly saved our lives at Fuping Mansion," Zheng Ming said first. "Masters, these are the 2 founders of our gathering place, and our leaders." Before he could finish, the older, still pale-faced young man in the chair waved his hand, interrupting him. "No need for introductions, we know each other." He stood up again, looking at Liu Ming with a look of emotion and excitement. "Senior, I didn't expect it would be you who saved me and my men again this time. I haven't even repaid your kindness for saving me before, and I don't know how to repay you this time." As soon as he finished speaking, he looked at Liu Ming with a wry smile. "No need to repay, it's just a small favor. Besides, Zhao Chen from your martial arts school has also performed many merits under my command, so saving you is only my duty." Liu Ming smiled as the 2 brothers Feng Tang and Feng Ji looked at him with expressions of shame and shock. Inwardly, he couldn't help but sigh. Life is full of encounters. No wonder this gathering place sounded familiar to him when he heard it was called the Tangji Gathering Place. So that's why. Upon hearing Liu Ming's words, Feng Tang and Feng Ji's faces lit up with joy, and they hurriedly asked "Senior, where is Zhao Chen?" They had thought they knew Liu Ming well. He had emerged as a prominent figure shortly after the apocalypse, and had offered them considerable guidance. Unfortunately, their own luck had turned sour, and they were now so miserable they felt a bit afraid to see him. Zhao Chen, on the other hand, was a close friend of theirs. Hearing that Zhao Chen had also survived the disaster, and seemingly following such a master, they must have achieved more than they did. The 2 brothers were secretly happy for him. Upon hearing their question, Liu Ming's smile faded, and after a few seconds of silence, he spoke. "Zhao Chen tragically died in an accident." Feng Tang and Feng Ji's eyes dimmed at this. Feng Tang braced himself and said, "I wonder what we can do to help you this time, Senior." Liu Ming ignored Feng Tang's words. Instead, he looked thoughtfully at the 2 brothers, Feng Tang and Feng Ji. He couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. Historically, one of these brothers had been titled Ju, the other a pillar of strength, yet now both were only A-level evolvers, far behind the top experts in the Wuling region. Furthermore, Feng Tang's aura was still a little weak, clearly still recovering from a serious injury. This didn't seem like the demeanor of the brilliant brothers from history. Chapter 366 Shock. I'm just stopping by to rest, but why are you here? Liu Ming asked the two brothers, a tone of confusion in his voice. This secluded gathering place in the valley wasn't particularly close to Ashford, and at the beginning of the apocalypse, Fengtang and Fengji's range of activity wasn't far from Ashford. The fact that they'd come so far to establish a refuge and gathering place suggests something must have happened since they parted ways. Seeing Liu Ming's question, Fengtang and Fengji exchanged a glance, each with a hint of bitterness. Finally, Fengtang spoke first. Senior, our story is truly a long story. I'm just wondering if you're interested. I'll have someone prepare some wine, and we can chat while we eat. Liu Ming nodded. He hadn't had a drop of water all day, so it was no problem. They were all here to rest. Fengtang's men quickly prepared a table full of food and wine, including meat and vegetables. Preparing such a table in the apocalypse was no mean feat. After the food and wine arrived, Fengtang humbly invited Liu Ming to take a seat. Liu Ming didn't hesitate, taking the first seat at the front, his gaze scanning the surroundings. Fengtang and Fengji waited until Liu Ming was seated, then he and the others took their seats. Filling his glass and handing it to Liu Ming, Fengtang began to recount his experiences over the past 6 months. Senior, after we parted ways, we successfully found the trapped sisters, but we also encountered a great crisis upon reaching them. At this point, Fengtang paused and sighed. And this crisis didn't come from monsters, but ironically, it came from our own kind. Our junior sister was trapped in a building at the time, along with several evolvers, who had naturally awakened during the disaster. Originally, with evolvers among the survivors, their safety should have been greatly guaranteed, but that's where the problem lies. Those naturally awakened ones were all wicked fellows. Not only did they fail to protect their ordinary survivors, but they committed a series of heinous crimes, such as using living people to lure corpses and killing people to feed monsters. When Fengji and I went to rescue our junior sister, we clashed with the thugs on the spot. They were very powerful, but we were not weak either. Although we suffered a little, we still managed to rescue our junior sister and the others. Fengtang sighed slightly and continued, we thought everything would be over after rescuing our junior sister, but we didn't expect that the battle with the thugs had just begun. We saved people from them, and in their eyes, we had undoubtedly offended them severely. Plus, our activities were all around Chengmao Garden, so there was constant friction. They have the support of several nature awakeners, and we've always been at a disadvantage in our conflicts. However, initially, we outnumbered them, and the difference in strength between us was not too great, so we didn't suffer a major loss. But unfortunately, they unexpectedly seized an altar first, and their strength began to grow significantly through sacrifices. They crushed us with an overwhelming advantage in our conflicts. Ever since they took control of the altar, they've monopolized the search for supplies around Chengmao Garden. Forget searching outside for supplies. Even if we do gather supplies, if they see us, we have to hand over the majority, or face disaster. Every step we take is a step weaker. With our hands tied, we finally moved to this new gathering place. Fengtang poured out the reasons for establishing a new gathering place so far away from Chengmao Garden, like spilling beans. Only then did he pause. Liu Ming also gained a general understanding of their situation. It was simply that they had previously offended a faction that possessed several nature awakeners and had found and controlled the altar. Ultimately, they were suppressed to the point of being unable to survive and had to flee. There seemed to be few powerful factions in the Chengmao Garden area, and even fewer capable of crushing Fengtang and his group. Fengtang, after all, came from a family steeped in martial arts. Not only were each family member exceptionally skilled, but even the apprentices, disciples, and masters at the family martial arts academy were a formidable force. At the dawn of the apocalypse, such a force could still be crushed. By this calculation, the true nature of this faction was clear. Liu Ming asked calmly, did you offend Jiangwan and Chen Humin of the Iron Fist Brotherhood? Senior, how do you know? Fengtang asked, his eyes wide with confusion. Because the Iron Fist Brotherhood is a thing of the past. Liu Ming's voice remained indifferent, seemingly devoid of any emotion, simply stating a simple fact. Feng Tang's heart trembled at this remark. What did they mean by the Iron Fist Brotherhood is a thing of the past? Could it be? An answer emerged in his mind, one he thought he couldn't fully believe. Yang Guan and Chen Human were completely annihilated by me, and the Iron Fist Brotherhood and the remaining Iron Fist fort are now occupied by my men. At this point, he glanced at the two brothers, Feng Tang and Feng Ji, whose expressions had changed drastically. Seniors, that's right. The ones who forced us two brothers to flee, where we were completely trapped, and now we are still hiding in this desolate place, were Yang Guan and Chen Human. They were also among those nature awakeners back then, Feng Tang said with gritted teeth, his expression filled with shock and astonishment. He seemed to be having trouble understanding that these two formidable enemies, who had once rendered him powerless, had fallen to the hands of masters he had only encountered twice. Iron Fist Fort is now under my control. If one day you can't defend this gathering place, or if you no longer want to lead your men here, you can bring your men to Iron Fist Fort or Ash Fort to find me, Liu Ming suggested, a smile curling across his lips as he looked at the stunned brothers. Feng Tang was stunned by this, but ultimately, unsure how to refuse, he could only nod. Liu Ming, seeing his partner's agreement, was secretly delighted. Dao Ju and Shi Zhu Gan Cheng, even if their current strength wasn't great, given their future potential, investing in them would definitely not be a loss. Once I'm done with this, I'll come back and take you out for some training to accelerate your evolution. Okay, we've almost finished eating. Now, have someone bring a few generators down from the truck. Consider them my welcome gift to you. Liu Ming quickly wheeled over a chair and his half-eaten meal and stood up. Seeing this, Feng Tang and Feng Ji also stood up, following Liu Ming toward the truck outside. When the door opened, the sight of the generators filled them with joy. These generators were the target of their search team's outing. Even their leader, Feng Tang, had returned gravely injured, all for these equipment. Chapter 367 Departure. Finally, Liu Ming left all the generators at the Tangji gathering place. This didn't mean they were all given to the Feng Tang brothers, he simply stored them there temporarily, intending to return for them after the battle. He also gifted Feng Tang 3 generators with hundreds of kilowatt-hours of power. Even so, the moment they were unloaded from the truck bed, everyone at the gathering smiled widely. The value of these 3 generators was enough to elevate their weapons production and self-sufficiency to a whole new level. Liu Ming didn't linger. After a few words with Feng Tang and Feng Ji, he left the gathering place with Ji Zerong and the other 2 children. Feng Tang and Feng Ji accompanied Liu Ming out of the valley in trance until he was out of sight, then returned. Liu Ming then rode Ji Zerong all the way to the demon hunting area. The monsters in the safe zone are no longer suitable for refining evolution blood suitable for the 3 little dragons' energy levels. If the 3 dragon pets want to evolve, their opportunity lies not in the safe zone, but in the demon hunting zone, where monsters are rampant, more numerous, more densely distributed, and of higher energy levels. Perhaps only in the demon hunting zone can one encounter second level monsters that match the 3 little dragons' evolutionary attributes. The 3 little dragons have already evolved to the limit of SSS level. To advance further, they must either cultivate a breakthrough through hard work, or replenish a vast amount of SSS level evolution blood, ultimately achieving a second level evolution blood that matches their attributes. Given Liu Ming and the 3 little dragons' abilities, hunting second level monsters isn't particularly risky, so he naturally prefers this method, which is the most time efficient and labor saving. Of course, this low risk refers to fighting a second level monster alone. If Liu Ming were to encounter a large group of second level monsters, or a C level or higher second level monster, he would likely face immense difficulty. With his limited strength, even with his 3 dragon pets, whose powers were about to evolve and skyrocket, he could only manage to protect himself in the demon hunting zone at best. He was far from capable of unbridled slaughter. With this in mind, Liu Ming and Ji Zerong raced to the edge of the demon hunting zone. It was already late at night when they said goodbye to Tangji and arrived at the demon hunting zone. For ordinary people, nighttime carries more dangers than daytime. However, for Liu Ming, the dangers of the demon hunting zone at night and during the day were not much different. After all, the number of monsters posing a threat to him in the demon hunting zone was neither too many nor too few. Furthermore, with his repeatedly enhanced vision, he could perceive his surroundings even in the dimness of night, by relying on the slightest reflection. Even in the absence of even a single ray of light, pitch black darkness, his sixth dimensional perception and telekinesis allowed him to discern his surroundings as clearly as in the daylight. This was Liu Ming's second visit to the demon hunting zone that day, and his feelings were quite different. Having previously entered the demon hunting zone with high spirits, Liu Ming was unexpectedly frightened back by a terrifyingly powerful horned demon overlord within moments of entering. This second time in the demon hunting zone, Liu Ming no longer possessed the same high spirits as before. Instead, he was extremely vigilant, his senses constantly extended, like a vast spider web woven from his mental power, observing every movement. As Rong neared the edge of the demon hunting zone, Liu Ming ordered him to slow down, as if a predator were gathering strength, before closing in on its prey. Entering the demon hunting zone, Liu Ming extended his mental power again, this time even further than his previous foray, to avoid the possibility of powerful monsters hiding behind cover and remaining undetected. The demon hunting zone remained desolate, with broken walls, cracked concrete pavement, and rubble and dead trees everywhere. Huge rat-like creatures occasionally emerged from their burrows, glancing at Liu Ming and Rong with bloodshot eyes before seemingly comparing their strength, before burrowing back into the ground. These rats were mostly mutated and evolved from Earth's native rats, inheriting their robust reproductive capacity and becoming larger, more ferocious, and more cunning. Liu Ming paid no attention to their thoughts. They were merely the bottom of the food chain, relying on their prolific reproductive capacity to survive in the demon hunting zone. They weren't worthy of his attention. Furthermore, even if they attacked him in the hundreds or thousands, they wouldn't pose much of a threat unless their numbers reached tens of thousands. However, swarms of tens of thousands of rats were probably rare, even in the demon hunting zone. Therefore, for true experts, creatures like mutant rats weren't particularly dangerous. Rong and Liu Ming had officially entered the silent death zone of the demon hunting zone. It was as desolate as a dead zone. At Liu Ming's request, Rong slowed down, needing to sense the situation ahead before determining his direction. After about 10 minutes of stopping and starting, Liu Ming finally spotted his first target. 1,000 meters away, a massive beast seemed to blend seamlessly into the night. Its body was massive, its pair of deep blue eyes burning like flames in the darkness, their lantern-sized eyes illuminating a portion of its torso. Liu Ming could clearly see its massive head and the 2-meter-long fangs jutting out of its mouth, each as sharp as a knight's lance. Its deep blue eyes were framed by dark blue fur, each hair thicker than a needle, a chilling sight. 4 thighs, even thicker than Rong's, stamped on the ground. As if sensing danger, the creature furiously dug the ground with its hind legs, creating a massive dent in the concrete floor. Name: Blue Fire-Fanged Boar. Energy level. With his insight, the creature's information only contained a name, and even its energy level was a question mark. This meant its energy level was definitely higher than his own. A level 2 monster. Liu Ming was secretly delighted. This creature was undoubtedly the level 2 monster he had been searching for. Judging from its appearance, it was likely a fire-attributed monster, likely a good match for Sumi or Afahi. As for how closely it matched, and who it was more compatible with, they would naturally have to wait until they defeated it to find out. Who will be the first to evolve to level 2? It all depends on how strong this giant is. Liu Ming chuckled and urged Rong on. Rong raised his hooves and bolted towards the blue fire boar. As Rong exerted his strength, the resounding sound of his 10-ton body stomping on the ground finally alerted the behemoth 1,000 meters away. The creature also kicked off its hind legs, charging towards Rong like a tank. Chapter 368, Dragon Pets Cross-Level Battle. As the two behemoths, the blue fire-fanged pig and Rong, galloped simultaneously, the road, already so blackened that its original grey concrete surface was barely discernible, suddenly shook violently. Thick, accumulated dust and dirt flew everywhere, obscuring the bright crescent moon hanging in the sky. Even the weeds along the roadside swayed violently as if blown by a strong wind as the two beasts passed. The blue fire-fanged pig's hooves, as broad as basins, slammed down onto the road with each thump, leaving a large circular hoofprint on the hard cold cement. Not only was the beast's momentum fierce, but its speed was incomparable to its enormous size. In a matter of moments, it was within striking distance of Zherirang. Given the blue fire-fanged boar's speed, an ordinary person would likely only catch a fleeting shadow, yet Liu Ming could clearly see its form. However, this time, Liu Ming didn't make a move. To save time and quickly gather enough evolution blood for his 3 dragon pets to complete their evolution and reunite with the main force, he had typically personally dispatched every monster he encountered, swiftly dispatching them. Now, Zherirang and the other 3 were on the verge of reaching the second stage of evolution. At this point, even a large amount of evolution blood wouldn't be decisive for their evolution. Only by pursing evolution blood of a higher level and higher quality could they overcome the obstacle. Furthermore, even if the 3 of them joined forces, they wouldn't be completely without a chance of victory against a second stage creature. Even though his current strength far surpassed that of the 3 combined. Once they all reach the second stage, with the dragon creature's combat talent and potential, and in a 1-on-3 situation, the outcome would be uncertain. As a dragon keeper, Liu Ming knew that his future reliance would be on his pet dragon. However, who could have predicted the unpredictable world? A dragon keeper who had evolved into a high-level control class would only be able to stay aloof in the melee combat profession. The thought of this filled Liu Ming with a pang of bitterness. He remembered that nearly a decade of experience as a tamer had been largely unused, but instead, it had unleashed his natural talent as a melee fighter. It truly lived up to the saying, one may plant flowers with care, but they may not bloom. One may plant willows by accident, but they may grow into a forest. But this time, he was determined, not only to make the willows grow into a forest, but also to make the flowers bloom. His physical fitness was indeed comparable to that of a second tier or even C-rank pure strength based melee fighter, but this advantage was entirely based on the cultivation of the secret training methods of the Knights of the Otherworld. Due to the differences in physiological structure between Earthlings and those of the Otherworld, the upper limit of this training was far lower than that of those who practiced the pure Knight secrets. Therefore, Liu Ming knew this wasn't his true reliance. If he wanted to continue to improve his physical fitness and maintain his superior physical functions compared to other professionals of the same power level, he would likely have to rely on his dragon breeder's talents. This far-reaching improvement in physical fitness, beyond the serendipitous means of fusing a lava heart or cultivating secret techniques, could only be sustained by the potential of the dragon breeder's mysterious dragon bloodline enhancement talent. According to Liu Ming's experience, each dragon bloodline enhancement, a hidden passive talent, required the evolution of his dragon pet to activate through bloodline resonance. Furthermore, this strengthening effect would only be noticeable when his dragon pet's power level increased. If his dragon pet's strength only increased moderately, his own enhancement would be insignificant. Especially since his physical fitness had already reached a level far beyond his dragon pet's own power level, the improvement gained from bloodline enhancement would be even more negligible. Even Zherirang's previous evolution from SS to SSS level hadn't significantly improved him. However, if all 3 dragon pets had successfully advanced past the second stage, coupled with the fact that he hadn't activated the passive ability of his dragon bloodline enhancement in a long time, the expected increase would surely surprise him. Just as he was thinking this, Liu Ming's body suddenly jolted. Recovering from his thoughts, he saw Zherirang already locked in a tussle with the blue fire fang boar. Zherirang's pair of sturdy, scaled front paws blocked the blue fire fang boar's fierce attack. Those ferocious fangs, like a knight's lance charging, were incredibly ferocious. Sizzle. The fang boar's sharp fangs sparked as they collided with Zherirang's thick scales, a sharp clash suddenly echoing. Even though Zherirang had blocked the head-on collision of 2 tusks, his strength was still somewhat inferior to the blue fire fang boar, which had already evolved to the second stage. His hind hooves plowed deep furrows in the ground, and the blue fire fang boar's thrusts forced him to retrace his steps. Even Liu Ming was inwardly astonished by the blue fire fang pig's brute strength. While such a large creature inherently possessed greater strength than a human of the same power level, this blue fire fang pig's power was undoubtedly among the strongest among monsters of its power level. As his master, he was well aware of Zherirang's immense power, a terrifying strength rivaling even those of some less powerful second-tier monsters. Yet, in the face of this creature, he was sent flying almost instantly. The power clash ended in a complete one-sided victory for Zherirang. Sumi. After Liu Ming issued an attack command to the other two dragon pets, which had already recovered from their rest, and were already eager to fight. Sumi's body suddenly grew in size, and then, like a phantom, she leaped from Zherirang's broad back, and charged towards the unstoppable blue fire fang pig. After Sumi transformed into a dark purple shadow and burst forth, Afei, the winged claw dragon snake, slowly ascended into the air amidst the swirling clouds. Then, rapidly rising against the wind, he swelled in the air, transforming from the size of a thick bracelet to a behemoth the size of a high-speed train in the blink of an eye. With a resounding thud, Sumi's purple phantom slammed sideways into the blue fire fang boar's imposing, ablaze with a faint blue flame. This knocked the blue fire fang boar back several meters from its ferocious attack, while also giving Zherirang, who was struggling to hold on, a moment to breathe. The impact was so intense that Sumi suffered excruciating pain from the blue fire fang boar's bristles, harder than steel needles, shattering her purple scales. For a moment, she could only avoid the attack and avoid a second charge. Following Sumi, Afei also launched an attack. A ball of dark green poisonous mist that was so sticky that it was almost condensed into liquid shot out from Afei's mouth like a column of condensed mist towards the huge head of the blue fire boar. Chapter 369. Blue Fire Fang Boar's Assassin. Columns of highly concentrated poisonous mist slammed into the blue fire boar's head, splattering the ground around the beast into a scorching green. The ground sizzled like a frying pan. Liu Ming's eyes remained calm. He knew that despite the impressive impact, the blue fire boar wouldn't suffer much damage with such force. However, the intense corrosiveness of the nearly liquid-like poison mist still caused the blue fire boar to howl in pain. Its attacks became more ferocious, its hooves stomping with such force that the ground practically scooped up. Its hair, sharp and hard like steel needles, was clearly no match for the pervasive poison mist. Where the mist struck, small patches of black decay began to form on the skin behind the fur. This was a second-level body, and its resistance to toxins was far beyond the reach of even first-level toxins. Otherwise, with the winged claw dragon snake's black sea poison mist's intensely corrosive properties against flesh and blood, the blue fire-fanged boar, caught in the crossfire with no time to dodge, would have been a bloody mess. The sudden and immediate impact sent the blue fire-fanged boar surging in agony. It was unable to stop Afei, the culprit, mid-air, and even Sumi's swift speed prevented it from pursuing him. Its final target was Zherirang and Liu Ming, who was on his back. The blue fire-fanged boar's charge returned with even greater speed. Zherirang had already retreated 100 meters, but the blue fire-fanged boar accelerated in a flash. The next moment, Liu Ming could sense the beast's intense fishy stench up close, like a gust of wind, sweeping towards him. If he didn't want to attack, he didn't. Even when the attack was imminent, Liu Ming had no intention of striking out. He simply held his breath to block out the foul, fishy wind from the fanged boar, his expression calm as he watched the roaring beast approach. Unlike his master's composure, Zherirang, who was sitting beside Liu Ming, now had his eyes wide open, growling anxiously at the blue fire-fanged boar charging towards him. However, perhaps because of Liu Ming's presence, the normally timid creature, despite his nervous expression, showed little fear. The blue fire-fanged boar had already escaped the range of Afei's poisonous fog. Although it still clung to the lingering toxic mist, charging towards it like a biochemical weapon, the concentration of the mist was no longer enough to harm it. However, the impact of the poisonous mist had thoroughly enraged the behemoth. Roaring furiously, the blue fire boar's hair, as tough as steel needles, now stood on end, charging forward like a spiky steel fortress. Its lantern-sized, dark blue eyes blazed with rage, their blue flames blazing in wisps. By the time the blue fire boar reached Zherirang, its entire massive head was engulfed in dark blue flames. Like a monster carrying a blazing blue flame, it roared and charged at Liu Ming. Although Liu Ming hadn't yet grasped the power of this level 2 monster, judging by its posture and its name, he could guess that its abilities were likely related to fire. Despite the monster's ferocious momentum, Zherirang remained motionless, neither charging nor dodging, frozen in place like an idiot. It looked as if Jizai would be dealt a heavy blow in the next moment. With a roar, the blue fire fang boar's massive body, weighing over 10 tons, crashed into Jizai position. For a moment, the ground within 100 meters shook like a massive earthquake, sending countless rubble flying everywhere. The blue fire fang boar smashed into the ground and plunged into it. Jizai, who should have been standing still, had suddenly burrowed into the ground in a flash, leaving the blue fire fang boar's powerful attack empty. The blue fire fang boar, slamming into the concrete, had no time to react. Sumi, who had been wandering nearby, suddenly moved. With a powerful kick of its long, slender limbs, it leaped nearly 100 meters. Then, its claws, shrouded in purple flames, repeatedly struck the blue fire fang boar's vulnerable abdomen. This was also where the blue fire fang boar's needle-like hair was most sparse. Crimson blood dripped from the blue fire fang's abdomen. With a roar of immense fury, the blue fire fang, in pain, yanked its massive head and half its body from the rubble and mud, whirling around to bite Sumi. Sumi, having anticipated the blue fire fang's move, vanished in a fleeting shadow. The blue fire fang's furious attack missed again. It stopped roaring, and instead glared coldly at Sumi from a distance, its eyes filled with ferocity and brutality. The ferocity in the blue fire fang's eyes was so tangible that it made Sumi tremble. This was the innate power of a superior being suppressing a lower one. After all, the transition between a first order and a second order being was no less than a complete species transition. However, Sumi wasn't truly overwhelmed by the superior species aura. It stared intently at the behemoth before it, its limbs slightly bent, ready to transform into a phantom and dart out at the first sign of a thundering attack, dodging the incoming blow. A seasoned warrior, Sumi knew the beast's strength was more than enough to inflict severe damage in an instant. However, its speed and agility were clearly its most significant weaknesses. As long as it wasn't hit, its attacks, no matter how powerful, were useless. The repeatedly wounded blue fire boar raised its head, enveloped in azure flames, and glanced at the winged claw dragon snake, still hovering in the air, poised to strike at any moment. It glanced back at the pit, where its recent opponent had vanished. Its eyes blazed with ferocity, and it raised its head to let out a roar that reached the heavens. Then, as if fueled by a massive incendiary charge, the flames enveloping its head began to spread throughout its body. The blue fire fanged boar's entire body, from head to limbs to torso and tail, was engulfed in a breathtaking, dark blue flame. The ground it stood on was reduced to a scorched earth by the intense heat. Seeing this, Afei, Jizai, and even Liu Ming, who was observing the situation from underground with telekinesis, ready to command Jizai to break out and strike, were all filled with alarm. Clearly, the blue fire fanged boar was about to go berserk. The blue fire fanged boar was undoubtedly a formidable monster evolved from a native Earth species. Such a transcendent creature, capable of evolving from a common Earth beast to the level of second order elemental mastery, surely possessed some incredible innate abilities. Chapter 370, Response. In just a few breaths, the blue fire boar's bristles stood on end. Combined with its massive size, it resembled an inflatable hedgehog, its spines erect. The dark blue flames emanating from its pupils blazed even more fiercely. Even from 100 meters away, one could sense the incredibly intense heat emanating from the beast. Even the ground beneath the blue fire boar's feet was pierced by the heat, gradually transforming into a crystalline mass of molten, scorching hot liquid. Even Jizai, hiding tens of meters underground, was sweating profusely from the scorching heat. And that was to say nothing of Sumi and Afei, who were currently facing off against the blue fire boar. A strange light flashed in Liu Ming's eyes. This kind of high temperature? This was definitely not the innate ability of an ordinary evolved creature. Even for a second level evolved creature, this abnormally high temperature and penetrating, infectious flames were truly extraordinary. Though surprised, he felt no sense of alarm, as if facing a formidable enemy. Instead, he felt a tinge of joy. The evolutionary blood extracted from this exceptionally gifted evolutionary creature would undoubtedly increase the chances of his dragon pet evolving after ingestion. Sumi, a dragon pet with a fire attribute, perfectly matched this blue fire fanged boar's attributes, making it a rare and ideal material for evolution. While he wasn't afraid of evolutionary monsters like the blue fire fanged boar, Sumi and Arfei, whose physical strength hadn't yet evolved to the second level, and whose combat power was still a long way off, stared solemnly at the suddenly dangerous beast before them. Liu Ming also abandoned his tendency to let his 3 dragon pets do as they pleased, and began to take command. True, he still had no intention of taking action. He simply prepared to shift from the 3 dragon pets' individual efforts to commanding their coordinated attack. With his extensive experience commanding his pets against enemies, and the 3 dragon pets' far superior attributes and combat power, he believed that slaying this gifted, second level monster wouldn't be impossible. Suddenly, the blue fireballs' eyes, filled with murderous intent, glared at Gizeli Rang before him like 2 springs of blazing blue flame. A whirlwind. A sound like a sharp arrow piercing the air echoed. But just as the sound dripped through the air, it erupted into a resounding boom, stirring up a powerful gust of air. A dark blue arrow, like a long blue line, instantly traversed the hundreds-meter barrier and arrived in front of Sumi. The gust of air even struck Sumi's facial scales, causing her eyes to narrow slightly. "Get out of the way." Liu Ming's voice echoed without warning in Sumi's heart. At the critical moment, Sumi's honed abilities activated like reflex. Shadow Flash. This ability, evolved from Shadow Strike, saved Sumi at a crucial moment. The moment the dark blue arrow pierced its skull, it vanished, then transformed into a purple shadow, appearing 300 or 400 meters away from the blue fire fang's pig. Puff. Boom. The spot where it had vanished felt like it had been pierced by a sharp weapon, then exploded, as if struck by a miniature missile. A massive crater, 7 or 8 meters in diameter and 2 or 3 meters deep, appeared on the ground. Sumi, looking at the blue fire fang's pig, was filled with astonishment. If it hadn't been for its master's sudden warning, it would have been severely injured by that attack. After all, as an SSS level ultimate evolved creature, a resilient dragon pet, and with the tail cat's innate vitality, that attack wasn't fatal. Raw. Arfei, soaring hundreds of meters in the air, saw his companion nearly injured, and flew into a rage. He was about to charge at the blue fire fang's pig with his innate dragon snake transformation. Wait. Liu Ming's voice echoed deep within Arfei, halting his impulsive attack. The blue fire fang was now like a hedgehog, impossible to bite. Anyone who touched it was doomed. Sumi, 100 meters away, barely managed to dodge the blue fire fang's attack. If Arfei had rushed in for a close quarters engagement, he would have been riddled with shards and roasted like a winged clawed dragon snake. If he was wrong, the dark blue arrow was likely just a single bristle shot from the blue fire fang's body, combined with the strange blue flames. At first glance, the blue fire fang's fur wasn't the sparse, thin fur of a common wild boar or domestic pig. It was dense and thick, indicating an almost inexhaustible supply of dark blue rockets. And it was likely that the blue fire fang's fur had already grown back before it had even been used up. This creature was like a massive artillery battery, oblivious to ammunition consumption, and each attack was comparable to a miniature missile bombardment or a massive explosion. Facing such a heavy artillery battery emitting a constant stream of blue flames, a force of several hundred elite evolved classes would likely struggle to defeat it, and even face annihilation. This was where Liu Ming's advantage in engaging the blue fire fangs alone with his 3 dragon pets became apparent. They possess greater mobility than a larger force. As long as they didn't engage the blue fire fangs, the 3 dragon pets wouldn't have a problem escaping. Arfei possessed the ability to fly. As long as he remained at a safe altitude, the blue fire fangs would be unable to reach him. Gizeli Rang possessed the ability to burrow underground. As long as he escaped untangled and could escape underground, the blue fire fangs would be helpless. Sumi's ghostly speed and Dying Shuo's medium to long range maneuvers made it easy to escape the blue fire fang's pursuit. However, at this point, Liu Ming and his 3 dragon pets were clearly focused not on escape, but on the hunt. Whoosh. Boom. The blue fire fang's second attack of dark blue flaming arrows followed. This time, the target of the attack was Arfei, suspended in midair by a cloud of air. The cloud swelling between Arfei's abdomen and wings suddenly shifted from a static state to a swift flow. In a matter of seconds, a cloud of mist filled the air. Then, Arfei slashed through the air in an arc, dodging the direct attack of the dark blue flame arrow in a split second. However, the attack still exploded at its side. The aftermath. carrying intense heat and a fierce dark blue flame, swept towards the winged claw dragon snake. Whoosh! Arfei, facing the encroaching aftermath, bared his fangs and opened his maw. A ring, like a black hole, appeared at Arfei's snout. The dark blue flames and invisible shockwaves were sucked into the black hole as they impacted its perimeter, dissipating instantly. Arfei's devouring talent came into play at this moment. Arfei, seemingly dodging the blue firebore's attack with ease, twisted his body, dancing in midair like a translucent black jade ribbon, darting it. Arfei, quickly take to the air. Don't stop. Liu Ming's urgent voice echoed through Arfei's euphoric mind. Even with his battle-ready spirit and excitement, Arfei obeyed Liu Ming's orders without compromise. As soon as Liu Ming finished speaking, he soared, supported by the clouds, rising from 100 meters to over 300 meters. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It was then that the rapid sounds of arrows piercing the air reached Arfei's ears. 3 dark blue flaming arrows were hurled towards his original location. Boom. The explosions echoed, and the entire sky seemed to be dyed a deep blue. It was a truly beautiful sight in the vast darkness, but behind this magnificent fireworks-like spectacle lay the threat of death. Arfei, looking at the now diminutive blue fire-fanged boar a few hundred meters away, cast aside his previous disdain, and took on a solemn expression. If it hadn't been for his master's warning, it would have been reduced to a pair of charred barbecued pieces. The thought terrified him. Meanwhile, underground, Liu Ming's eyes narrowed, and he thought to himself, I can't wait any longer. These were just 3 tentative bursts of blue fiery arrows. If the blue fire-fanged boar realized it was no match for its foe, and launched a desperate fight, there would likely be a barrage of 10, 100, or 1,000, or even an overwhelming hail of blue fire arrows. By then, even Liu Ming, despite his preemptive telekinesis and his keen insight, would be powerless. Facing an enemy so difficult to defeat yet still posing a constant threat, he had to find an opportunity to kill with a single strike. Chapter 371, Knockover, Strangulation, Fatal Tearing. Under Liu Ming's telekinesis, the blue firebore's momentum intensified, and it launched a barrage of dark blue flaming arrows at Sumi and Arfei. Even though none of the dark blue flaming arrows had yet to directly strike Uxio, the shockwaves from their explosions repeatedly damaged the 2 dragon pets. While the 2 dragon pets could manage for now, it was clearly not a long-term solution. It's our turn, Liu Ming whispered, patting Jizirang's scales, which resembled the cold, reptile-like scales of snakes and lizards. Roar. Jizirang responded with a deep powerful voice. His previous timidity against the blue fireboar gone, now filled with fighting spirit. Seeing Jizirang, who had already recovered from his head-on collision with the blue fireboar, Liu Ming nodded slightly and gave his orders. But now you need a head-on confrontation. Before you go out, deploy all your defensive abilities. As the undisputed strongest tank among his dragon pets, Jizirang, whose physical defense and resistance surpassed even the winged claw dragon snake, naturally possessed considerable defensive capabilities. If he remembered correctly, Jizirang possessed several defensive abilities and talents. First, deploy the rock armor. With a swish, a thick suit of armor, composed entirely of impenetrable rock, covered Jizirang's torso. Jizirang's body, already the size of 2 or 3 stories, became even larger under the rock armor, appearing impenetrable, like a rock armor fortress. However, even after examining it, Liu Ming still felt it wasn't strong enough. With a wave of his hand, invisible telekinesis surged, slowly enveloping Jizirang's body. As the telekinesis grew and intensified, it gradually became tangible, even visible to the naked eye. A nearly transparent suit of armor covered the rock armor. The telekinetic armor, like transparent scales, covered his body. As the armor finally took shape, Liu Ming was finally satisfied. Its defensive power far surpassed Jizirang's own rock armor, conservatively estimated to be able to block at least several direct blasts of phantom blue flame arrows. Meanwhile, Arfei and Sumi, facing off against the blue fire fangs on the ground, were in a precarious situation, especially Arfei. He hovered in the air, lacking cover on the ground. He was afraid to distance himself, fearing Sumi would be unable to withstand the intense concentrated fire from the blue fire fangs, so he could only hover low. Under the blue fire fang's concentrated fire, He was unable to dodge and was nearly struck by a phantom blue flame arrow. The flaming arrow grazed his side, sending a stream of scales and a chunk of flesh flying. Fortunately, he dodged in time and combined his devouring talent and elephant devouring ability to neutralize most of the shockwave. Otherwise, they'd surely be severely injured and fall from the even more devastating explosion of the dark blue flame arrows. Let's go. Roar. Zeddy hurriedly swung his massive body and darted underground. Protected by 2 layers of armor, Zeddy immediately attracted the blue firebor's aggression the moment he emerged. Puff, puff, puff. A barrage of dark blue flame arrows hurled themselves at him. Earth gravity field. Liu Ming commanded. An invisible force field preemptively deployed, sweeping up countless dust and rocks, effectively slowing down several of the flame arrows. Get down. Faced with a dire situation, Liu Ming narrowly avoided another attack. Several dark blue flame arrows, deflected by the force field, exploded not far from the hole Zeddy had drilled. The shockwaves jolted Zeddy, who had just burrowed into the ground. Get right under that guy and knock him off his feet, Liu Ming whispered to Zeddy. The blue fire fanged boar now resembled a mobile artillery turret. Any attempt to distance itself would be met with a barrage of fire. While Zeddy's force field could counter these ranged attacks, the power disparity between the two was so great that even with the full force of the force field, it could only deflect and slow the enemy's attacks by a tiny amount. More crucially, this level 2 monster possessed a formidable frame comparable to melee monsters, and its vitality was incredibly strong, rendering its enemies even more helpless. This monster's melee effectiveness likely lay solely in its immense strength and tough skin, while its primary strength lay in its exceptional ranged attack power. In just a few moments, the battlefield was already riddled with craters, as if it had been bombarded by a bomber, the result of repeated bombardments of the blue flame arrows. This only solidified Liu Ming's resolve to engage in close combat. Start growing larger and prepare for close quarters combat. Sumi, be ready to use Shadow Flash to strike at your opponent's vital points. After formulating his strategy, Liu Ming made the final call. Zeddy, attack. Use all your strength to activate the earth gravity field and use the water gravity center to bless them. This guy possessed a water elemental talent in addition to the earth gravity field. Fearing he might make a mistake at a crucial moment, Liu Ming warned him again. Under the power of the water gravity center, the earth gravity field's gravity surged even more. Within the dark yellow dust-filled force field, blue water spheres began to emerge, floating like jellyfish. Each of these spheres, with blue ribbon-like tentacles, was imbued with astonishing gravity. As they burst through the ground, Liu Ming shouted again, "Sandstorm Soul, block the way." As Zeddy continued to evolve, the massive Sandstorm Soul, whose size had grown to rival Zeddy's, appeared from thin air, blocking Zeddy like a wall. With the whirring sounds of sharp weapons darting back and forth, puffs, puffs, all the dark blue flame arrows pierced the Sandstorm Soul's body. With a resounding roar, the Sandstorm Soul transformed into a cloud of dust, then completely dissipated. The intense shockwaves rocked Zeddy like a small boat on a raging sea, ever in danger of capsizing. Hold on. Countless dark blue flames struck as expected, crackling like rain hitting a pippa leaf. By this time, the intense heat of the flames was largely neutralized by the blue water spheres at Chuyuan's center of gravity. Then, the powerful defensive power of Liu Ming's transparent telekinetic armor was revealed. As Zeddy rushed through the blast radius, the armor only grew more transparent and thinner, with no sign of disappearing. Meanwhile, Zeddy and the blue fire-fanged boar were already within reach. Zeddy, knock it over. With a thud, the blue fire-fang boar, far more powerful than Zeddy, was unexpectedly knocked to the ground, belly up. Puff, roar. The knocked over blue fire-fang boar let out a cry of shock and anger, its dark blue flames becoming even more dazzling, their color shifting back to a deep blue. A sizzle. An imperceptible flash of lightning flickered within the dark blue flames. Though difficult to discern with the naked eye, Liu Ming could still see it. Looks like I have to take action. Boom boom boom. Instead of the whirring sound of the blue flame arrows piercing the air, this time the sound of the blue flame arrows broke through the sound barrier, a deafening sonic boom. Each blue flame arrow was swirled with wisps of blue lightning, creating a terrifying sound and speed that left the 3 dragon pets completely unable to resist. Bang, bang, bang. Countless dark blue flaming arrows shot out like lightning, but before they could even reach 10 meters, they collided with an invisible giant wall and were blocked. Then came the resounding sound of explosions. Within the invisible giant wall, at least hundreds of dark blue flaming arrows exploded in succession. Cracks began to appear within the wall. This wall was naturally Liu Ming's telekinetic wall. Boom. Finally, the blue fire-fanged boar, caught in its own desperate attack, was engulfed in the explosion and flames caused by his own attack. The giant wall shattered in the violent explosion. Arfei, go and entangle it. Liu Ming blessed Arfei with a layer of telekinetic armor, and instructed him to charge into the thick smoke of the explosion and attack the blue fire-fanged boar. Roar. Arfei swung his massive body, and plummeted from the sky into the thick smoke. Using his devouring talent and elephant devouring ability, he absorbed the final aftermath of the explosion, avoiding injury himself. As expected, the blue fire fang boar survived the violent explosion, lying limply on the scorched earth. Much of its bristles were singed. Seeing Arfei approaching, a fierce glint blazed in its eyes. With a sizzling, lightning-fast blue flame arrow pierced Arfei's body, leaving him no time to react. However, it was blocked by his telekinetic armor. Boom. Amidst the explosion of the blue flame arrow, Arfei advanced, closing in on the blue fire fang boar. His massive, powerful, and resilient body swooped forward, enveloping the blue fire fang boar, his winged claws and dragon snake-like coils strangling him. Its black scales shimmered with a dark sheen, each one like a miniature black hole, absorbing the intense heat damage. Arfei's grip now entangled the blue fire fang boar's muscles and bristles, leaving it unable to fire. Sumi's figure also transformed into purple lightning and rushed in. The lightning flashed in the air, then vanished into the shadows like a purple shadow, the next moment reaching the blue fire fang boar. Countless phantom claws, emanating from the tearing power of the claws, pierced the blue fire fang boar's scarred body, striking with devastating force, each strike drawing blood. Dark red blood spurted out from the blue fire fang boar's wounds like a high-pressure water hose, under the intense tearing and bleeding effects of the claws. The blue fire fang boar grew weaker from the continuous wounds, and was strangled, unable to fight back. With a heartbreaking wail of unwillingness, this powerful second-level monster, capable of roaming the demon hunting zone, was soon succumbing to Arfei's stranglehold and Sumi's phantom claws. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372, Tailcat Transformation, Purple Lightning Candle Flame, Part 1. When the blue fire fang's vital signs completely vanished, the dark blue flames extinguished. The winged dragon snake finally unwound its powerful coils, clinging to its body. As Arfei crawled away from the blue fire fang's corpse, he was met with a horrific display of wounds. Almost every scale on its jet black body that had come into contact with the blue fire fang had been shattered and charred, leaving it in a state of utter misery, its breath growing weaker. The blue fire fang looked even more grievous. Its once massive body now twisted strangely, sprawled limply on the scorched earth. Dark red blood flowed to the ground, then evaporated in the raging flames, leaving only a dark scorch mark. The blue fire fang's torso was covered in scars, some from Rang and Arfei, others from the initial explosion. The blue fire fang's needle-hard straight hair was bent and twisted by the winged claw dragon snake's immense force, tugging helplessly. The most fatal wound was in the blue fire fang's chest, where a hideous wound had been ripped open. Even though the blue fire fang had lost all signs of life, the wound continued to ooze blood. Peering inside, one could see the blue fire fang's heart, the size of a basin, completely ripped apart. The blood was flowing from this massive heart, oozing outward. The heart valves were completely shredded, and fragments of flesh and blood mingled with the blood as they spilled out from the lacerations. Well done, Liu Ming, riding Rang, said, praising Arfei and Sumi. In Liu Ming's opinion, this blue fire-fanged boar was no weakling, even among tier 2 monsters. Its energy level wasn't just the lowly tier 2F, but definitely reached tier 2E or higher, and its overall combat power was even higher. While he might have intervened in this battle, his primary combat force was still his dragon pets. At most, he had protected them from injury by creating a few telekinetic barriers to ward off the blue fire-fanged boar's fierce attacks. This showed that the combined power of the 3 dragon pets was undoubtedly comparable to that of an average tier 2 monster. Okay, now it was time to test the harvest. Hopefully, the evolutionary blood extracted from this blue fire-fanged boar would meet the evolutionary requirements of one of the 3, thus allowing the birth of his first tier 2 dragon pet. With a single leap, he disembarked from Rang's broad back. Despite the serious injuries sustained in the previous battle, Rang had recovered somewhat. A scaly tail, thicker than a concrete utility pole, swayed constantly, its expression particularly excited as it gazed at the blue fire-fang pig. To the stid, they might have mistaken it for a relative. As Liu Ming approached the blue fire-fang pig's corpse, he observed its attributes. His 3 dragon pets, the purple shadow flametail cat, with its darkness, shadow, fire, beast, and dragon attributes, the mysterious abyss dragon salamander, with its earth, fire, water, beast, and dragon attributes, and the winged claw dragon snake, Arfei, with its wind, fire, water, poison, evil, dragon, and devouring attributes. All 3 were dragon type creatures, at the very bottom of the dragon family's bloodline progression chain. The blue fire-fang pig was a unique, natively evolved creature not yet catalogued in later biological encyclopedias. However, the hidden insights within the dragon breeder's dragon pet evolution cookbook revealed a clear compatibility between its attributes and his own. Fire, electricity, beast, and evil attributes. Evolutionary beast. Fire attribute hypercoagulants are concentrated in the heart and kidneys, while electric attribute hypercoagulants are distributed throughout the body's arc fibers. This matches the evolutionary food profile for the dragon pet, the purple shadow flametail cat. After reviewing the information, Liu Ming frowned slightly. He understood that fire attribute hypercoagulants would be concentrated in the heart and kidneys, but electric attribute hypercoagulants were concentrated throughout the body's arc fibers. Did this mean that the entire blue fire-fang pig would be refined into evolutionary blood? However, the fact that the blue fire-fang pig's attributes were compatible with Sumi was good news. Sumi was his first dragon pet to follow him. If he could decide who would be the first to evolve into a second-level dragon pet, he would naturally hope that it would be Sumi. After all, for most people, any first is a very important thing. Liu Ming stood before the blue fire-fang pig, lying on the ground, a mountain of flesh 3 or 4 meters tall, and slowly extended his hands. The blue fire-fanged boar's lifeless body began to dissolve under the influence of an invisible force. Bits of colorful starlight began to fly toward Liu Ming's hands. These bits of starlight gradually converged, forming starlets. As the starlets gradually multiplied, a ball of light, formed from the convergence of starlight, began to emerge. Only a small portion of the blue fire-fanged boar's body had vanished. Less than 1% of the blue fire-fanged boar's entire body remained. Refining the entire body into evolution blood would be a monumental undertaking. Raw. While Liu Ming was still concentrating on refining the blue fire-fanged boar's evolution blood, a high-pitched roar echoed from afar. The clamor of the battle had disturbed the deep darkness of the demon hunting area. Go and drive away any monsters that attempt to approach. Remember, don't let any creatures get close, he instructed the 3 dragon pets surrounding him. Then, Liu Ming once again immersed himself in extracting the evolution blood. Sumi was the first to transform into a purple shadow and streak off into the distance. Then Arfei, his slender mysterious form, soared into the sky. Finally, Rang took heavy steps, dragging his massive ferocious body in one direction. When the 3 dragon pets gradually disappeared from sight, Liu Ming released the holy fire demon puppet to monitor the surroundings. He finally breathed a sigh of relief and began to refine his evolution blood. Even without monsters of tier 2 or higher, the 3 dragon pets were powerful evolved creatures of their level, capable of roaming freely. High-level monsters have a strong sense of territory. Since the blue fire-fanged boar, a powerful tier 2 monster, occupied the area, the possibility of other tier 2 monsters was minimal. Therefore, Liu Ming had no concerns about the 3 dragon pets. The roars and neighs of beasts echoed in the distance amidst the sounds of fierce battle, followed by the rumbling of collisions and the wailing of monsters. After a resounding boom, the heavy footsteps of the monster approaching in the distance gradually faded, and the night returned to its previous silence. The shimmering ball of light, formed by the variegated stars between Liu Ming's hands, grew even more dazzling. This starlight, predominantly a pale blue, was breathtakingly beautiful. The blue firebore's massive body shrank considerably, with approximately 1/3 of its main trunk disappearing. Under the touch of Liu Ming's radiant hands, this equally massive trunk slowly melted like snow in early spring, then vanished like bubbles in the sun. The matter represented by the body also shifted from solid to translucent, then to ethereal. Stars and stars continuously converged towards Liu Ming's palm. As the starlight gathered, the cluster, while not noticeably increasing in size, grew in depth and brilliance, seemingly drawing the gaze in. Fengshi's wife is preparing for postgraduate studies lately, so I've taken care of the housework and cooking. Add to that the increased workload from Fengshi company's layoffs, and I've been incredibly busy. Chapter 373, Tailcat Transformation, Purple Lightning Candle Flame, Part 2. As the night deepened, the massive blue firebore, its body the size of a house, finally vanished into the vast darkness. The dazzling colors in Liu Ming's palm reached their zenith. Vast swaths of the dense night sky were illuminated by the rainbow light, radiating like the brilliance of the morning sun. At Liu Ming's summons, Sumi's slender muscular figure transformed from afar into a purple phantom, darting towards them in an instant. Sumi's eyes, as clear and mysterious as a pool of purple, gazed upon the ball of evolution blood in Liu Ming's palm, blazing with boundless hope. Liu Ming chuckled softly and said, "Sumi, take it." As the evolution blood, composed of star-like particles, entered his mouth, it erupted in boundless brilliance. Strings of star-shaped ribbons, as if drawn from the void by an invisible force, danced around Sumi like ribbons of light. The ribbons of light gradually intertwined, circling and circling, soon enveloping Sumi like a cocoon of light. Bands of starlight continued to be drawn from the void, wrapping themselves around the cocoon enveloping Sumi. However, the cocoon's volume remained unchanged, only growing increasingly dazzling. It seemed as if boundless light illuminated the entire night sky as far as Liu Ming could see. The roars and howls of startled monsters in the distance echoed endlessly. The majestic will of each dragon pet's evolution arrived as expected. Boom, boom, boom. Liu Ming could clearly feel the powerful heartbeat and pulsing life force within the cocoon. And streams of immense, pure energy continuously surged from the cocoon toward Liu Ming, flowing through the contractual channel between Dragon Keeper and Dragon Pet. As this energy flowed into his body, Liu Ming felt his strength increase with every second, his strength and energy level constantly climbing to new heights. This energy came from the Dragon Keeper's Dragon Vein enhancement talent, and was transmitted simultaneously using the excess energy that was not consumed during the Dragon Pet's evolution, without affecting Sumi's own evolution. Rumble. The light that illuminated a corner of the demon hunting area startled countless monsters within, and a far greater swarm of monsters than before began to attack. Gzeli Rang and Arfeli continued to fend off the monsters, but they continued to incur new wounds. After an unknown amount of time, Liu Ming, who had been closing his eyes to feel the power surge within him, opened them. A terrifying crimson lightning flashed from his eyes, like a god radiating electricity from the void. I've reached the SSS level limit. Previously, through the divine grace of evolution from S level to SSS level, he had successfully advanced from an A-level professional to an SSS level 1. However, he only barely made it to SSS level, still a long way from the pinnacle of SSS level, let alone the SSS level limit known as a half step to the second level. However, through the Dragon Vein enhancing talent activated by Sumi's evolution, he had finally taken a giant leap forward. All he needed was a chance to officially enter the second level evolutionary professional. Roar. A soul-stirring beastly roar interrupted Liu Ming's deep thoughts. Liu Ming looked up and saw the cocoon of light slowly crack open. A mysterious and magnificent figure emerged from the crack. Sumi's dark purple facial scales, once resembling a mask, had undergone a dramatic transformation. They now glowed a brilliant purple with indigo, adding a touch of mystery. Sumi's purple fur also turned bluish purple, while her silver fur became even brighter. Even the hair curved, resembling streaks of lightning. Sumi's purple eyes and dark purple pupils now turned blue, while her pupils turned bright purple. Blue ivy-like electric light swirled around Sumi's body, while her silver-haired legs continuously sizzled with silver lightning. Even the ground beneath Sumi's feet was pierced by the silver lightning, sending rubble flying everywhere. What astonished Liu Ming most wasn't that Sumi seemed to have acquired lightning attribute abilities like the blue fireball during her evolution, but that she had actually grown a second tail. Next to the tail of the originally blazing miniature purple fire dragon, a second identical tail had sprouted. However, this second tail burned with silver flames, like a silver fire dragon shrunk countless times. Silver and blue lightning continuously danced between the silver flames. Liu Ming quickly activated his insight ability to take a closer look. Purple lightning candle flame tail cat, dragon breed, two-tailed, leader, level, second level F class, peak, attributes, darkness, shadow, fire, lightning, beast, dragon potential, third level SSS abilities, crushing and tearing claws, lightning flash, flame breath, flame dragon tail, flame lance and thunder spear talents. Leadership, lightning candle king, void electricity, phantom lightning speed, lightning fire shadow transformation. To live specialties, leadership, leaping agility, arc burst, extreme kinetic energy description. The purple lightning candle flame tail cat, a member of the tailed cat clan with dragon blood, holds a unique position among the tailed cat bloodline. The purple lightning candle flame-tailed cats, bearing the superior bloodline of the nine-tailed cat ancestor, evolved from the purple phantom shadow flame-tailed cats, transcending the one-tailed category and entering the two-tailed stage, possessing two lives. They inherited the innate abilities of the purple phantom shadow flame shadow king and also developed new lightning talents. This lightning gifted them with enhanced explosive power and defense, allowing them to launch a thunderous strike at any moment, after lurking in the shadows. This powerful race had shared the label of shadow assassins. After seeing the information revealed by his insight, Liu Ming was deeply moved. He didn't know much about tailed cats. In the past 10 years, he had only encountered and heard the legend of a single Azure Frost Star-tailed cat. That cat possessed 4 tails. The formidable strength of the tailed cat clan was undeniable. A two-tailed purple lightning candle flame-tailed cat was naturally far more formidable than a purple phantom shadow flame-tailed cat. Judging by Sumi's current innate abilities and specialties, they were either evolutions of previous ones or simply new developments. Crushing and tearing is an advanced version of phantom claws and tearing. This ability isn't uncommon, but it typically appears in beast-attributed transcendental beings of tier 4 and above. Meanwhile, Sumi, still only a tier 2 creature, has unexpectedly awakened this superior ability. Lightning flash, flame breath, and flame dragon tail are, of course, all evolutions of shadow flash, dark flame breath, and purple flame dragon tail. However, there's also a new ability, flame lance and lightning spear. All talents, save for leadership, have been upgraded. Void electricity and 2 lives have also been added. The 2 lives ability likely derives from the legendary legend that a tailed cat gains an extra life for each additional tail. The leadership and shadow leap agility traits were inherited by the purple shadow flame-tailed cat, while shadow shooting speed advanced to phantom lightning speed, gaining the additional ability of extreme kinetic energy. Chapter 374 The Night Gets Darker. Liu Ming was still pondering Sumi's new abilities when several monsters, drawn by the noise, broke through the defensive line formed by RFMG Zerong, and charged straight at him. Sumi tilted her head to glance at the attacking monsters, her expression filled with contempt. As the monsters drew closer, they suddenly moved. Silver lightning suddenly erupted from Sumi's feet. With a whiz, Sumi transformed into a streak of blue-purple lightning and vanished from Liu Ming's sight. Whoa. 3 Sumi figures appeared simultaneously, and then 3 monsters with the most powerful energy fluctuations were simultaneously slashed by a silver claw. The heads of these 3 monsters, all above the SS level, exploded like 3 watermelons being smashed simultaneously by sledgehammers, their brains splattering. Their bodies fell limp to the ground. twitching a few times before finally dying. Liu Ming's eyes lit up with joy, and he muttered, "What is this?" Crushing and tearing claws. Sumi's phantom claws had never possessed this level of destructive power. This melee ability, unique to creatures with evolved beast attributes, was as brutal and powerful as it was displayed now. While most of the pets he had raised possessed beast attributes, none had ever awakened this superior ability. Unexpectedly, Sumi, who had just reached the second stage, had unexpectedly awakened this powerful killing move. Although Sumi had instantly slain 3 of the strongest attacking monsters, including a powerful SSS rank behemoth, she still couldn't quell the frenzy of the monsters in the demon hunting area. Seeing the monsters advancing despite her attacks, Sumi stopped in her tracks, her blue-purple eyes gazing at the incoming monsters from afar. Lightning flickered all over her body, and a crackling sound echoed. Silver lightning suddenly appeared, coating Sumi's eyes in a silver coating. The crackling sound of thunder and lightning resounded, and in the blink of an eye, Sumi was enveloped in silver lightning, like a holy spirit within the thunderbolt. Roar. Sumi roared, and countless silver lightning bolts leaped out like silver snakes. The horde of monsters attacking from afar froze, as if entangled by the snakes. Then, a burning stench filled the air, and all the attacking monsters were reduced to charred corpses. Many were A-level monsters, and even a few were S-level. Electricity from the void? Liu Ming's eyes were filled with surprise. While delighted by Sumi's display of strength, he couldn't help but feel a touch of astonishment. This level of lightning overshadowed the original, overshadowing Sumi's inherently powerful fire element. All the monsters that passed through RFMG Zerang's defenses were instantly swept away like leaves in a gust of wind. Come back. Sumi had successfully evolved, and this place had been reduced to a scorched earth. The noise and aftermath of the ensuing battles would undoubtedly attract a steady stream of monsters, making it impossible to linger here for long. Liu Ming recalled RFMG Zerang, who were still surrounding and intercepting the approaching monsters. When Jizirang and Arfei returned to Liu Ming's side, they were both stunned and curious by the drastically changed appearance of Sumi. Jizirang, in particular, dragged his massive body in circles around Sumi. Despite their enormous size, their eyes, somewhat comically small, looked out of proportion to their own. Sumi's former companion was surveyed with curiosity. Not only was Sumi's appearance drastically different, but her size had also grown considerably. While still not as large as Jizirang's, her length was comparable. The two behemoths stared at each other comically, sizing each other up, making Liu Ming inexplicably amused. Alright, stop staring. Sumi has successfully evolved to stage 2, becoming the most evolved of the 3 of you, Liu Ming explained to his other 2 dragon pets. Of course, just by sensing Sumi's greatly enhanced aura, they should have guessed she had completed her evolution. As expected, the 2 little ones suddenly realized what was going on, then both revealed expressions of immense envy, their strange expressions making Liu Ming laugh and cry. Let's go find the next level 2 monster, so you can evolve to level 2 as quickly as possible. He could only quicken his pace, leading the 3 little ones towards the other dangerous areas of the demon hunting zone where level 2 monsters lurked. Although Sumi's speed had increased significantly after her evolution, currently boasting the most rapid increase in speed and agility in the entire Ash Castle, Liu Ming had to proactively instruct Sumi to slow down, in order to keep pace with RFMG Zerang. Despite the slowdown, with the evolved Sumi at the forefront of their march through the demon hunting zone, the dangers lurking throughout the precarious zone were instantly suppressed by Sumi, before they could truly erupt. Wherever the 3 pets and 1 person passed, only charred corpses were left behind. It seemed that even evolved species below level 2 were unable to withstand the lightning attacks summoned by Sumi's void-generated electricity. Perhaps only a first-order SSS level evolved species could rely on its immense vitality to withstand the furious dance of silvery electric snakes unleashed by the void's electricity. Throughout the demon hunting zone, wherever the 3 pets and their companions passed, the silver lightning illuminated them completely. Wherever the void's holy lightning ravaged, it was reduced to scorched earth, like the ground plowed by a giant sword. The power displayed by Sumi after her second order evolution far exceeded Liu Ming's expectations. Sumi's strength surpassed that of the blue fire-fanged boar, who had previously perished at the hands of the 3 companions. The blue fire-fanged boar was at least a second order level evolved species, indicating that Sumi's current strength surpassed that of a second order level. Sumi's overall strength was likely approaching his own. Liu Ming estimated that without the support of his dragon pet, and with all his trump cards deployed, he would have a power approaching that of a second order sea level. Meanwhile, Sumi's combat power was likely no less than that of a second order D level. Sumi's true power level is only at the peak of the second order F grade. This vast disparity in strength and power is largely due to the combat talent of Sumi's race. The purple lightning candle flame-tailed cat, a two-tailed cat with dragon blood, is a formidable fighting race that combines the strengths of both the nine-tailed cat and the superior dragon races of the dragon clan. After Sumi evolved into a two-tailed cat, Liu Ming's power increased significantly. Hunting monsters in the demon hunting area was no longer as cautious as before. Now, Liu Ming, accompanied by Sumi and Uxio, rampaged through the demon hunting area like a bulldozer, searching for the blood that would allow the other two dragon pets to evolve. The pitch black night deepened, as if an endless darkness enveloped the earth. From time to time, streaks of blue or silver lightning flashed through the endless darkness, echoing the desperate or furious roars of monsters. That was Sumi hunting. Chapter 375, Coexistence Night Hunting Group. Wuling City's Demon Hunting District No. 7 lies within the former Jing District and a vast wilderness area surrounding the city's suburbs. In peacetime, Jing District, located near the Lingshan District in Wuling's heartland, was the most densely populated residential area in the city, boasting numerous commercial housing units and exceptionally well-maintained landscaping. However, Jing District has now become a breeding ground for all manner of monsters. Human survivors, even the slightest discomfort in this environment, are highly likely to stumble into a monster's lair. Even during the day, only the most formidable teams dare to venture into Demon Hunting District No. 7 to hunt monsters. At night, especially in the thick of darkness, Demon Hunting District No. 7 is completely deserted, its only echoes filled by the howling wind and the roars of monsters. Yet, amidst this backdrop, a team swiftly traverses Demon Hunting District No. 7. 3 modified, ironclad off-road vehicles, positioned in a triangular formation, serve as the spearhead of the convoy. Following behind were 4 or 5 trucks of varying sizes, each surrounded by a guard vehicle, all of them modified SUVs with reinforced steel plates. Sitting in the passenger seat of the lead SUV was a woman of unparalleled beauty. Her cherry red lips, delicate nose, rosy cheeks, and long tucked-in hair exuded a deadly allure. Even the driver, caught glimpses of the beauty beside him, felt a flicker of attention, as if in awe of the person beside him, afraid to glance sideways. This woman, unmistakably oriental, had hair not black, but a dazzling icy blue. It didn't look artificially dyed, but rather a naturally radiant, enchanting, mysterious hue. Combined with her icy features, she revealed a breathtakingly beautiful ice-cold beauty. Vice President, we've gained an astonishing amount this trip. A gruff voice boomed from the backseat of the SUV, its voice so loud it made one's ears ring. It belonged to a burly man, his head resting against the roof of the spacious SUV even from the backseat. He wore a simple tactical vest, camouflage pants, and black combat boots, his upper body revealing arms as thick as an adult's thighs. Watch your machine gun. If you let any monsters get close to the convoy, I'll tear you apart. The cold-blooded woman didn't respond, instead issuing a venomous warning. The incredibly sturdy man, with a wry smile, reopened the SUV's sunroof, leaned out halfway, and gripped the handle of the heavy machine gun mounted on the roof, the cannon the woman had been referring to, vigilantly observing his surroundings. Suddenly, a bat-like, fierce-looking mutant night owl swooped over the convoy 100 meters above. A crisp thud echoed past. Like a bird with a broken wing, the night owl plummeted from the sky, crashing into the weeds on the highway beside the convoy with a thud. The crisp sound was unmistakably the result of a single bullet from a heavy machine gun. The giant whistled triumphantly. Few people in the entire gathering area could pull off the difficult burst fire technique of the War Thunder cannon, which fired at a rate of 20 rounds per second. It was a skill he was particularly proud of. Liu Ming, also perched on Sumi's back, speeding through Demon Hunting Area No. 7, heard the piercing, clear sound of gunfire echoing from afar. Why is there a gunshot? He frowned, puzzled. Not only on a night filled with danger, but even in the bright sunshine of day, few people would enter the demon hunting area to hunt. A hunting party entering at this hour was extremely rare. Whatever. As long as they don't cross paths with me, I don't need to worry about them. Shaking his head, Liu Ming pushed the matter out of his mind and continued urging Sumi on. After Sumi completed her evolution, he led Sumi, Afei, and Jizirang through hunting area number 7 for much of the night. It was already 3 or 4 in the morning, nearing dawn. He hadn't encountered any evolved species above level 2, so there was no way to tell if Jizirang and Afei had evolved. He had already covered a small portion of hunting area number 7. It seemed that level 2 species were rare even within the area. Encountering a blue flame boar right after entering the area was truly rare. With a sigh of frustration, Liu Ming had no choice but to send Sumi off in another direction to try his luck and see if he could hunt a level 2 evolved species. That direction was the direction from which the gunshots had just come. Vice President, a high energy life form is approaching. Heading our way. The giant man on the roof of the SUV shouted comically, leaning forward to his companions inside. Keep driving. Carry the offerings to the gathering place. Don't stop. I'll go check it out. With a thud, the passenger door was flung open by a pale hand. Then, a graceful figure scurried out of the speeding SUV and vanished, leaving only these words in the air. Liu Ming, still nearly 1,000 meters away, let out a soft sigh. He knew he was rapidly approaching the convoy where the gunfire had occurred, but that wasn't his intention. His destination would require him to pass by the convoy. He hadn't anticipated being spotted even 1,000 meters away, and that an extremely powerful individual was approaching him. This individual's power level far surpassed any of the second level experts he had previously lost. Liu Ming had a premonition that he would encounter a familiar name again. Sure enough, a few moments later, icy blue snowflakes began to fall from the sky. Liu Ming extended his right hand, palm facing upward, and caught a snowflake. His expression, previously nonchalant, shifted to a more serious one. This snowflake was clearly not something typical of the season, but rather a phenomenon created by the domain of the mysterious and powerful being approaching him. The icy blue flakes carried faint energy fluctuations. Stop, Sumi. Having already encountered them, Liu Ming naturally ignored the arguments and simply stopped Sumi and waited for the person. As the snowflakes intensified and the temperature plummeted to near 0 degrees, the true master finally appeared. Gazing at the newcomer's icy blue hair and breathtakingly beautiful features, Liu Ming's eyes flickered with surprise. He didn't actually know this woman, or rather, he knew her, but she didn't know him. It was another legendary woman in the Wuling region, Yiking, the legendary Frost Knight captain among the 16 peaks. Yiking, vice president of the Wuling Coexistence Association, succeeded the association's president with unanimous approval after their death. Later, she led the evolutionary professionals, who fought against oppression and pursued freedom, to found the Wuling Demon Hunters. She remained the Demon Hunters until her rebirth. She was a supreme figure in Wuling, rivaling the military and political giants, and ranked highly among the 16 peaks. She was renowned for her formidable combat power and fierce fighting style, earning even Ko Xianlong, the elemental dragon, known as Wuling's foremost master, some respect from this incredibly fierce woman. Unlike the later Sandstorm Swordmaster Lu Zuan, whom she had slain, Yiking, whose rise to power was largely due to her own misappropriation of the 4-color altar, upon which Lu Zuan built his fortune. Yiking's memory of Lu Zuan's rise to prominence did not begin before the apocalypse, but rather 3 years after it. During an exploration of a secret realm, Yiking obtained a rare earth-related artifact, which marked the beginning of her unstoppable surge in power, ultimately establishing her reputation as the Sandstorm Swordmaster. Meanwhile, Frost Knight Captain Yiking had risen to prominence since the dawn of the apocalypse, a meteoric rise that was unparalleled. In other words, while Liu Ming could suppress the yet-to-be-launched Sandstorm Swordmaster Uzun, he had no assurance of victory against the swiftly advancing Yiking. In Liu Ming's perception, Yiking resembled a bottomless frost chasm, its depth unfathomable, brimming with a chilling coldness that froze the world like an unfathomable icy abyss. It's worth noting that, despite Liu Ming being only at the peak of his SSS rank, a half step to the second stage, His true strength and combat power rivaled that of a second stage C rank evolutionary. His immense telekinesis, in particular, was truly exceptional, rivaling the strength of a second stage D rank evolutionary. And that's before he'd fully digested that immense telekinesis and transformed it into fully wielded telekinesis. Otherwise his power would have soared even higher. Of course, relying solely on his current level of telekinesis control. If he relied solely on telekinesis, he still couldn't contend with a tier 2 D rank evolutionary. After all, his telekinesis abilities were too rudimentary, lacking tier 2 combat techniques. While he could entangle a tier 2 evolutionary, defeating them proved difficult. Even with his sole mastery of mental power, the secrets of earth, fire, wind, water, and Boelio, he only grasped the most superficial aspects, lacking deeper killing techniques. However, the destructive power of his scholar hand and the immense stamina granted by his volcanic heart more than compensated for the lack of telekinetic damage, maintaining his true combat power at tier 2 C rank without compromise. Have we met? Yi Qing's cold voice reached Liu Ming's ears, interrupting his reverie. Yi Qing was deeply puzzled by the inexplicable emotion in the eyes of this unkempt, dusty, and bearded man. Yi Qing was absolutely certain this was her first time seeing this man. But the look in his eyes clearly hinted at a sense of familiarity, leaving her perplexed. No, Liu Ming chuckled, shaking his head in denial. Of course, he wouldn't directly tell him that in his past life, he'd been privileged to witness the dignity of the Wuling Demon Hunters leader several times, while handing over missions to the Demon Hunters Guild. While Yi Qing, the Frost Knight commander, didn't yet possess the aura of the later generation's ice goddesses, the aloof and unapproachable, she possessed a certain aura of later Frost Knight commanders. Even the Frozen Domain, a unique ability unique to the Frost Knights, had been mastered and mastered, as evidenced by the seemingly endless icy blue snowflakes dancing in the sky. What's your intention in rapidly approaching my convoy? Yi Qing curled her lips at the man's insincere response, abandoning the question of acquaintance and turning to a more pressing matter. As she spoke, her eyes involuntarily glanced at Sumi, who was seated beside Liu Ming. It wasn't that Yi Qing, this icy beauty, lacked composure. Rather, Sumi's appearance was simply too impressive, especially those two tails blazing with various colors, which would have drawn anyone's admiration. I'm just passing by. You guys go your own way. No need to meddle in my business, Liu Ming said helplessly, shrugging his shoulders. Given a choice, Liu Ming would have naturally chosen a detour, avoiding this unknown convoy. However, the next target Liu Ming targeted happened to cross the road the convoy was traveling on, leading to the current scene. Upon hearing Liu Ming's response, Yi Qing's beautiful brows furrowed slightly, and she instructed everyone in the convoy's command vehicle to continue their return journey. As the convoy retreated, Yi Qing made no move to leave, instead gazing at Liu Ming with a cold gaze. She scoffed at the suggestion of a chance encounter, and didn't even believe it. Passing by her own convoy, so late at night, what a joke. She had a feeling the man, accompanied by 3 behemoths, was an extremely formidable figure, possessing immense combat prowess. A powerful individual of this caliber would naturally be deeply conscious of how they and their surroundings affected them. He wouldn't appear in Demon Hunting Area number 7 without a purpose, much less by chance. Human evolved individuals out hunting demons at night were already extremely rare. In the not so small area of Demon Hunting Area number 7, the chances of 2 identical groups of human evolved encountering each other were even smaller than winning the lottery. Liu Ming sympathized with the Frost Knight captain's feelings. If he were leading a hunting expedition and encountered an extremely powerful individual, especially one of his own kind, on his way back, he would likely become wary and suspicious. Struggling to survive in the apocalypse, savagely slaying the wilderness, if he wasn't vigilant or overly suspicious of everything, he would likely have perished in the lurking dangers. I'm just passing through. Your convoy is almost out of the demon hunting zone. It's time for us to go our separate ways. Liu Ming looked helplessly at Yi Qing, the Frost Knight captain, who was staring at him like a prisoner. His expression was a bit annoyed. He really was just passing through, but he never expected you to think he was up to something. Liu Ming couldn't help but chuckle bitterly. He knew the terrifying power of the woman before him. If he fought her, his chances of victory would probably be 50 to 50 at best, unless he could quickly break through to the second level. He might be able to achieve a decisive victory. I'll leave after my people leave. Tell me why you're here. I'm sure none of those still in the demon hunting zone this late are just out of boredom, Yi King said, her expressionless face fixed on Liu Ming. Though her face was icy, her expression was indescribably focused, which amused Liu Ming. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.